subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
Stood up in line like a conditioned reflex, and their movements were uniform and without any confusion. This made Zephyr nod with satisfaction and continued. This year-end assessment is a test of your practice results over the past year. I don't want you to become marine bugs who just want to hang around. You are the future of marine. It is the hope of the people of the world. Therefore, please go all out for every assessment and do not let down your sweat and efforts. Every word of Zephyr comes from the heart. This old man who has devoted his life to marine has placed ardent hopes on every student, hoping that they can shine in a just cause. Shizo, you will be in charge of the rest. Zephyr told Shizo behind him and sat down next to Sengoku. What a group of energetic kids. I feel several years younger when I see them. Sengoku couldn't help but sigh as he looked at the young faces in the audience. Yes, they are all Marine's future. By the way, why isn't that guy Garp here? Zephyr also smiled when he heard this, and then asked. That BD Garp went to New World, and before leaving, he took my son Bei with him. Not to mention Garp, I still want it, but when I mention Garp Sengoku, my head jumps and my head feels big. Haha, it is indeed what that guy Garp can do. But now let's look at the performance of the recruits. Zephyr was also helpless about Sengoku and Garp falling in love and killing each other. It seemed that Garp was as inconsistent as ever, which made Sengoku very upset. Trouble. Hey, what teacher Zephyr wants us to see is your favorite student Kano's atlas. Just as Sengoku and Zephyr were chatting and laughing, a very unscrupulous voice suddenly came from next to them. It was Kizaru Porcellino with a pouty look on his face. Of course, Atlas doesn't rely too much on fruit abilities like you. Porcellino, Zephyr said with a somewhat unkind tone. What he has always criticized about Porcellino is his lack of physical skills. In his opinion, Porcellino's talent should have been better than Sakazuki's, but his attitude of following the crowd made him feel that this was a waste of talent. So Zephyr has always been at odds with Kizaru. Hey, Teacher Zephyr, don't say that. You could become a top powerhouse even if the power of the fruit is different. Don't be too harsh. Kizaru still pouted and said in a tone that didn't deserve a beating. Okay, stop arguing and let's watch the competition. Sengoku saw that the two of them were starting to argue again, so he quickly stopped him. After finally giving himself a day off, he didn't want to be caught in the middle. On the school field, Shizo had already started arranging groups for each arena with a list in his hand. Arena number 1, Smoker versus Hina. Area 2, Gruss versus Herbert. There are 10 arenas in the entire school field, which is enough for the entire school field to have 10 arenas, which is enough for the assessment to be completed in one day. Chapter 41 Return of Life Martial God Arm. On the first stage of the school field, Smoker and Hina were already fighting together. Smoker and Hina are both fruit ability users, and their personal fighting style preferences are also the use of abilities. However, Hina has not mastered armament hockey yet. It can be said that Smoker is invincible. It must be said that Logia can force a 50-50 against anyone. Smoke White Fist, Jianjian Gun Shield. Smoker and Hina are both very familiar with each other and know each other's fighting habits and methods very well. But in terms of basic physical fitness, Smoker is definitely slightly better. Kyoyushin. Countless black iron branches tried to surround Smoker, but Smoker avoided this move by directly transforming into elements. In fact, if the black threshold can tightly wrap Smoker, then his elemental transformation may not come out. Shave. Both of them have a tacit understanding of how to use Shave in close combat, but Smoker is obviously stronger than Hina in terms of physical strength, so he is slightly better in speed. Smoke White Fist Finger Pistol. However, before the two could meet, Smoker's fist flew out, and a finger pistol was about to hit Hina hard. G&G Iron Body. The thick black sill quickly covered Hina's beautiful figure, and Smoker's finger pistol flew in vain. Since Atlas taught them a lesson last time, Smoker chose to practice finger pistol, shaving, and iron body first, while Hina mainly practiced iron body, shaving, and paper arts. At this stage, Tempest Kick and Moonwalk are still difficult for them because there is a certain advanced relationship between these two styles, and shaving and the requirement for foot strength are very high. Boom, boom, boom. There were several more collisions, but without exception, Hina's attacks were dodged by Smoker's elemental form. Hey, what a scary little brother, Logia. As soon as he heard this tone, he knew it was Kizuru. He was really an old on Myoji. The lower limit of Logia Devil Fruit is still very high. Sengoku on the side also nodded and commented. In fact, the outcome of this battle has long been decided. Although Smoker's Logia was once considered a shame in Logia, the level of unreasonableness cannot be underestimated. As expected, the final winner of the battle was Smoker. However, Smoker's image was not much better. The clothes on his body were basically in the shape of strips of cloth, and there were bloodstains all over his body, which made him look a bit miserable. As time progresses, the assessment is coming to an end, but there is no arrangement for Atlas's opponent yet, and it is not known what Zephyr's thoughts are. Atlas, in the middle of the school field. Atlas was stunned for a moment and then understood. After all, he made too much noise when fighting, and the ring could no longer meet the needs of the venue. As for who his opponent was, Atlas also had some guesses in his mind. Atlas slowly walked to the center of the school field with everyone watching. Opposite him was Shuzo, who was naked from the waist up. Obviously, he didn't want to scrap another piece of clothing. Atlas looked at Shuzo quietly, his eyes full of eagerness to try. After all, he had fought against Shuzo the most times in the past year, but he had never really defeated Shuzo once. But the result this time should be it will be different. Is this kid so strong now? He actually wants Shuzo to be punished himself. Sengoku was a little surprised. Apparently, he was busy with official duties and did not pay too much attention to Atlas. Another reason was that he was very relieved about Zephyr, an old comrade in arms. Don't worry, it's not certain whether Shuzo can win. Zephyr was obviously a little happy. After all, there was nothing more proud than showing off his proud student in front of his old comrades. Shave. Atlas and Shuzo started to attack in a tacit understanding, obviously intending to fight directly in close quarters. Atlas did not take advantage and gave up the use of swordsmanship to carry out long-range attacks. Iron Body Fist Shatter. The fist shadows all over the sky were attacking Shuzo. Shuzo was not in a hurry. His eyes flashed red, and he was locked in sight. Paper Artsus. Suddenly, Shuzo's body rolled freely between Atlas's fists like a puddle of mud. When Atlas saw this, he didn't intend to do any useless work. He took a step back and made a gun shape with both hands. Fly Finger Pistol Gatling. The vacuum bullets were released wantonly, as if they were free of charge, and the huge kinetic energy even produced violent roars in the air. Iron Body Steel Armed. Shuzo's pupils shrank. The blood flow in his body accelerated, and his whole body was covered in armed colors. The Flying Finger Pistol kept hitting Shuzo's dark body, splashing sparks, but the huge force still made Shuzo's body unable to stop moving back. Fall back. In fact, Shuzo has no choice. When Zephyr taught him Haki, he also said that it is very stupid to cover the whole body with Haki, because the total amount of Haki for a person is limited. Such behavior that covers the whole body will, firstly, reduce Haki's defense power for those who have insufficient training in Haki, and secondly, it will consume too much of Haki. However, Atlas's Flying Finger Pistol was too dense and fast, and its power should not be underestimated, so Shuzo had to use a lot of Haki in order to maintain the fighting status later. Tempest Kick Chaos. Shave. Shuzo was not willing to be a passive target. He raised his right foot and launched a series of chaotic vacuum slashes towards Atlas. He also used his body shave to quickly get closer to Atlas. Well done. Ha ha ha. Atlas laughed, relying on his powerful iron body skills to forcefully carry Shuzo's Tempest Kickoff. Clear bloodstains appeared on Atlas's body, and then slowly disappeared and turned into less obvious white marks. Sengoku in the stands was a little surprised. Although he knew from the intelligence that Atlas's self-healing ability was at the monster level, he didn't expect it to be so pervert. However, Shuzo was not surprised at all. He was used to it. He just quickly closed the distance between him and Atlas, trying to take the opportunity to give Atlas a hard blow. Return of Life, Iron Body Valkyrie Arm. Facing Shizo's offensive, Atlas did not dodge. His raised right arm suddenly swelled, and the sleeves on his arms turned into debris. His blue-black fist collided with the speeding Shizo. This martial arts arm is the result of his recent practice of returning life. He has been able to pour consciousness into his arm. Although the return of life is not complete, it is a small achievement. The explosive force caught Shizo off guard. Despite the defense given to him by his armor, the terrifying force still knocked Shizo away. Good boy. You really gave me a surprise. Ha ha. Zephyr laughed heartily. Sengoku on the side was speechless. After all, Atlas had given him a big surprise today. The strongest justice. Sengoku was a little distracted. Maybe this kid can really do it. Chapter 42, Actual Combat Marineford, Recruit Camp Campus. What a terrifying power. Shizo stood up slowly in the middle of the school field and sighed with a complicated look on his face. This is the first time he has said these words after meeting Atlas. Every time he fights with Atlas, he can feel this helpless power. I lost. Congratulations, Atlas. Shizo was a little depressed, but at the same time, he was happy for Atlas. Shizo instructor accepted. Atlas said modestly. Thanks to Shizo's sparring, his strength has improved so quickly, so it's naturally impossible for him to show off his rhetoric at this time. Moreover, they're not engaged in a life-and-death battle. Enough is enough, and they just need to understand the gap between the two sides. See Circle Calendar March 1504, Headquarters Recruit Camp Campus. A young man about 2.8 meters tall, with a resolute expression, stood in the center of the school ground. His smooth muscles fit perfectly on his body, as if he was wearing a set of armor that could be used in battles, which was intimidating. Opposite the young man is a burly, dark-skinned man with a black face. The man's hands are covered with a layer of black and purple, shiny armament hockey, and he is constantly beating the young man in front of him. These two people were Atlas and Shizo. Based on Zephyr's suggestion, Atlas shamelessly recommended himself as Shizo's human punch bag. Feeling the collision between armament hockey and his body, Atlas' understanding of armament color became deeper and deeper. He had a hunch that with just one opportunity, his armament color would be completely awakened. Okay, today should be the day of actual combat training. So let's get here first. Shizo slowly took off his arms and said to Atlas, who looked enjoying himself, "Practical training is the second-year project of the Marine Recruit Camp. In the first year, a lot of resources are spent on training recruits. It is impossible to send recruits to the battlefield in the first year, which is tantamount to massacre. However, recruits cannot be cultivated in a greenhouse, so starting from the second year, recruits will often be led to experience the cruelty of war." In the original work, Zephyr met the idiot Whitebeard II and Miss Barjean when he led Ein and Benz to conduct actual combat training. In order to protect the recruits, Zephyr was in dire straits, and because of Zephyr's asthma attack, his arm was amputated. Hey, kids, we're going to the Sabeti archipelago soon. A strong man with scars on his face and open clothes was holding a mace with dense barbs. He stood on the bow of the ship and smiled wildly at the crowd of pirates below. New World is coming. Captain, let's go first and pull Whitebeard down from the throne of being the strongest in the world. Ha. Of course, the captain is a pirate supernova with a bounty of 90 million. The pirates laughed wantonly. After all, they firmly believed that there was a man on their ship who could become the pirate king. Naval Headquarters, Marineford Harbor. A row of serious-looking Marine soldiers stood in front of the port, headed by Marine Recruit Battalion Chief Instructor Zephyr. Recruits, justice must be poured out with blood. Today, I will lead you in the first actual combat training of the year. This is not an exercise, but a bloody battlefield. Zephyr looked around the faces of the recruits and continued. Our target this time is the Mad Dog Pirates. The captain is the pirate Supernova Diaz, who has a bounty of 90 million, and the first mate Carlos has a bounty of 5,500. 1 million Second Officer Bokara has a bounty of 50 million belly, and the rest of the pirates have bounties ranging from one to another, and this is all the information I can provide you. Soon, a group of recruits headed in the direction of Sabeti Archipelago, led by Zephyr. Teacher Zephyr, are we going to Sabeti Archipelago? Atlas leaned against the side of the ship and said to Zephyr with a smile, yes, according to the intelligence, Mad Dog's group should want to dive from Sabeti's coding to the Fishman Island to go to the New World. After all, this is the tradition of pirates. Zephyr said with a smile. Does the teacher have any other information about them? Ha ha ha. Alice was a little curious. To be honest, this bounty pirate didn't really appeal to him, but Zephyr should have other deep meanings in choosing this pirate group as their target. Ha! You have to look for these with your own eyes. After all, you won't be able to get accurate information every time in future missions. Zephyr looked at Atlas, who was full of curiosity and couldn't help laughing. Ha, that's right. Atlas heard the words and didn't go into details anymore. After all, he was not afraid of the changes in the mere 90 million pirates. Report to Chief Instructor Zephyr. There are traces of the Mad Dog pirates ahead. A Marine on the observation deck reported loudly. Okay, keep going. On the other side of the Mad Dog pirate's ship, Diaz, whose face was covered with scars, looked at the Marine warship approaching at great speed and unconsciously narrowed his eyes, showing a cruel look. Kids, Marine is here. This is a gift for Lousy to enter the New World. Ha ha. It just so happened that he felt that his bounty was a bit low. Maybe if he slaughtered this warship, his bounty would go up. Soon, warships and pirate ships docked not far from the Sabeti archipelago. Boys, kill all these Marines for Lousy. Diaz put the mace on his shoulder and smiled ferociously at the Marines. Although he noticed Zephyr's presence, because Zephyr had long since retired to the background, Diaz did not recognize the former Marine Admiral for a while. Recruiters, this battle is completely left to you. Super fast shave. As soon as Zephyr finished speaking, Atlas used Diaz to rush away. After all, as the strongest recruit, he accepted the Captain Diaz without hesitation. As for the deputy with a bounty of more than 50 million, it's up to Smoker and the others. Boom! Iron body. Before Diaz could react, Atlas' fist was imprinted on Diaz's body. But what puzzled Atlas was that there was no feeling of penetrating the flesh. Instead, it was like hitting a piece of steel. Although he was just a casual blow, it shouldn't have achieved nothing. You guys, Lousy is a Paramecia steel fruit user. Although Diaz is surprised by Atlas's speed, I am not afraid at all with his devil fruit. Ever since he got the steel fruit, no one has broken through his defense. Iron body, boxing, piercing. Puff! The huge fist fell on Diaz again. Although I don't understand why people in the pirate world like to leak their information to the enemy. Atlas is not the kind of person who likes nonsense. Just come to Iron Body. Boxing teaches him how to behave. Chapter 43, Armed Color. Awakening Awe? Steel fruit? Lousy thought it was a tofu fruit. Atlas looked at Diaz's body on the ground and said mockingly. Soon, the battle between the hunter and the prey ended. Lines of Marines came and went counting the trophies. Unfortunately, no valuable items such as devil fruit and famous knives were found. After all, the latter was fine, but the former was not. Generally, you will eat it directly when you get it. Devil fruit is something that can be quickly converted into combat power. Although the price on the black market is 100 million belly, it is often priceless. How is it? Atlas, your armed color. On the warship, Zephyr looked at Atlas, who looked calm, and asked. Atlas was not surprised either. After all, this was a matter of course. With his current physique and belief, it would only be sooner or later for him to awaken to his armed nature. I suddenly woke up, Atlas said, and raised his arm, and the black and red hockey quickly wrapped around it, like a blood-stained arm armor. An armed color with such strength just after awakening. Zephyr was a little surprised. The quality of Atlas's armed color was not at all like that of a newly awakened one. But when he thought of Atlas's monster-like appearance, his body felt relieved. Let's go. There is an uninhabited island just ahead. Go try your weapon color. Atlas was also a little moved. If he could ask Zephyr to give him guidance when he first awakened, then he would have a clearer direction for his future training. But it was impossible for them to take action directly on the warship. With their current physique, although it had not reached the exaggerated level of destroying the island in one blow, a mere warship was still not enough for them to deal with. Soon, the warship docked at the uninhabited island. The rest of the Marines did not go to the island. They just stayed on the warship and watched from a distance. After all, they did not want to be accidentally injured by the battle between these two people. Teacher Zephyr, I have to use my full strength. Be careful. Atlas grinned, his hands covered in armed color. His leg muscles tightened, and his body's fascia was stretched to the limit. Razor. Life return, iron body Valkyrie arm. Ha ha ha, come on kid, don't underestimate me. Zephyr also laughed, his smile revealing absolute confidence. After all, he is Marine's highest combat power, Black Arm Zephyr. Boom! The black-red, giant-like fist and Zephyr's petite fist shining with black-purple luster quickly collided, as if 1,000 waves of air were aroused, and ferocious cracks spread out on the ground centered on the two of them. Ha ha! So happy, boom! 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 There were several more powerful collisions, but Atlas only retreated a little without any physical discomfort. Good boy, you are so powerful and armed. Come on, let me see your limit. Zephyr was also pleased to see Hunter Xin. He raised his fist and was about to hit Atlas on the body. However, something strange happened. Zephyr's fist had not yet touched Atlas, but Atlas seemed to feel a wave of energy coming towards him. Display your armed colors. Atlas' face darkened. No matter how powerful his newly awakened weaponry was, he was still in the hardening stage in terms of skills. Haha. Yes, let's feel the weapon color of the second stage. Atlas said nothing and quickly crossed his arms in front of him. Covered with a large amount of armed colors, his feet firmly grasped the ground, and his waist sank slightly. Boom! The huge impact knocked Atlas back more than 10 meters, but Atlas's body shape did not change. It was just that a long furrow was plowed deeply into the ground. Shave! Atlas didn't stop at all. A big pit instantly appeared on the ground he stepped on, and he was close to Zephyr again in a moment. Iron body boxing technique, 100 penetrations. This is a move developed by Atlas before specifically to deal with hockey users. Although it cannot be compared with the terrifying penetration of a mission, it can still cause a little trouble for Zephyr. After Zephyr boxed with Atlas again, he discovered something strange. It felt as if a force penetrated his arm defense and acted directly on his fist, but this penetration was basically useless to him. It doesn't do anything. It's like being bitten by a mosquito. That's a really good move. Zephyr didn't understand how Atlas developed these weird moves, but they often had miraculous effects, just like this move, 100 penetration. If it were someone else, he would have said, maybe you have to drink a pot. You must know that in a battle between strong men, even a moment of confusion may tilt the balance of victory. Teacher Zephyr, try this again. Atlas curled his lips, and the rich armed color quickly covered his whole body, as if he was wearing a black and red armor. 2 black lines extended from the corners of his eyes to his neck, revealing a strange beauty, and Atlas's body quickly compressed, directly becoming 2.5 meters tall. Teacher Zephyr, I haven't fully developed this move yet. I hope you can give me some advice. The combination of hockey and the return of life. Zephyr looked at the little man in front of him. Zephyr was 3.48 meters tall and murmured, brush. Atlas in this form seems to be completely unaffected by gravity. Under the terrifying speed blessed by the rabbit charm, it seems that even the light cannot catch his figure, just like a ghost in the dark night. Zephyr's heart trembled, and his body immediately tensed up. He quickly locked onto Atlas' figure, but it was too late. Armed iron body boxing heavy hammer. Atlas's fist suddenly swelled and struck Zephyr like a warhammer. The part of his arm that was in contact with the air even burst into flames due to the violent friction. Zephyr felt an oppressive shadow in his heart, but he still endured the discomfort and used hockey to parry. Bang! A huge sound spread from the island to the surroundings, and even Marines staying on the warship fell to tinnitus and subsequent dizziness. When the smoke and dust dissipated, two figures, one large and one small, facing each other were revealed, evenly matched. Cough, cough, ha ha. Suddenly, Zephyr slowly bent his tall body, began to pant violently, and his face gradually turned red. Alice saw that something was wrong. Logically speaking, the battle just now would not consume much physical energy for Zephyr, but he suddenly frowned, as if he remembered something. Divine Speed Razor. Atlas quickly returned to the warship, and regardless of everyone's surprised looks, he quickly rushed into Zephyr's room and smashed it open without even opening the door. Chapter 44 Graduation Early Sea Circle Calendar 1504. An unknown island in the waters near Sabeti Archipelago. Atlas put the asthma medicine he had brought into Zephyr's mouth and slowly patted Zephyr's thick back. Finally, Zephyr's face slowly calmed down and his breathing gradually returned to normal. It turned out that Zephyr had just suffered an asthma attack, which made him weak. Fortunately, Atlas seemed to have heard that Zephyr had asthma problems before, so he immediately brought the medicine on the ship. In fact, Zephyr usually carries medicine with him, but I was killed when I fought with Atlas just now. Headquarters Recruitment Camp, Zephyr Office. Teacher Zephyr, that day, Atlas asked worriedly. A week has passed since their actual combat training. Although he tied with Zephyr in the last attack, he would not be so arrogant that he now has the highest combat strength in the department. It's okay, it's an old problem. Zephyr didn't care. It's not like he hasn't seen a doctor about his asthma, but he accumulated too many hidden injuries when he was young, and now there is no cure for this problem. Atlas didn't say much after hearing this. After all, Zephyr was a former Marine admiral and the current instructor of the recruit camp. The medical resources he enjoyed were far beyond what he could have imagined. Without continuing this topic, Zephyr remembered the last battle and asked, "How long can you maintain the state you were in last time?" It can last for a long time. Atlas replied with some uncertainty. "If I'm not mistaken, the move you developed is a combination of life, return, and hockey. It should consume a lot of hockey and physical strength." That's right. And I haven't mastered the method of returning life yet, so I may be a little lacking in power. As for the consumption of physical strength and hockey, I'm not too worried. I feel that my hockey capacity should be higher than that of ordinary people. A lot more. As Atlas spoke, he covered hockey all over his body and continued, "I feel like it's okay to continue fighting for several days and nights by covering my whole body like this." Zephyr's pupils shrank when he heard this, and a look of shock could not be suppressed on his face. "You remind me of a person, an extremely talented pirate." "Oh, who is it?" "Douglas Bullet." "Bullet?" Atlas was a little unfamiliar, but he didn't remember such a character in the original work. Bullet, known as the Devil's Descendant, was a former crew member of the Roger Pirates. In Sea Circle Calendar 1499, when he was 22 years old, Marine launched a buster call on him. In the end, he was defeated because of exhaustion of physical strength. At that time, Garp and Sengoku is also a person involved in the arrest and is currently being held in Impel down LV.6. His physical talents are similar to yours, and he has extremely terrifying hockey power, Zephyr said with a somewhat solemn expression. Although he did not participate in the battle that year, he was very surprised to learn the result after Sengoku and Garp's dictation. He can only say that he is worthy of being called the successor of the demon. Although Atlas was a little surprised, he was not afraid at all. After all, these people were just stepping stones for him to become the strongest. So, never look down on anyone. There will never be a shortage of monsters in this sea. Zephyr warned with a serious look. Yes, Teacher Zephyr. Atlas is not the kind of person who underestimates the enemy. He still understands that a lion must fight a rabbit with all his strength. Teacher Zephyr, I have one more thing to report to you. Dong dong dong, dong dong dong. Please come in. Recruit Atlas. I met Sengoku Admiral. Atlas walked to Sengoku's desk and saluted with a standard military salute. When Sengoku heard the voice, he reluctantly looked up from the document and raised his hand to adjust his frog glasses. He still had the same fluffy head and braided beard. Is something wrong? Captain Atlas. Sengoku is a little confused. Logically speaking, the current Atlas should be in the recruitment training period, and there should be no intersection with him for the time being. Report to Sengoku Admiral. Recruit Atlas to apply for early graduation after the year. Oh, can you tell me the reason? I think the recruiting camp is no longer very helpful to the growth of my strength. For me now, fighting is the best nourishment, and I am ready to step onto the world stage. After a pause, Atlas continued with a smile. Besides, I think the pirates should be looking forward to the coming of fear. Boom, boom, boom. Sengoku knocked on the table slowly, his eyes flashing with wisdom from time to time. He was thinking about what kind of changes Atlas's appearance would bring to his layout. As Marines, the resourceful general, Sengoku could not be careless. Whenever he issues an order, his every move will be closely linked to countless lives in the world. Okay, I understand. Have you and Zephyr asked for permission? After a moment, Sengoku finally came back from his thoughts and asked slowly. You know, Zephyr is the chief instructor of the recruiting camp, and you must get his approval before graduating early. I've already told Mr. Zephyr, and he supports my decision. Atlas was prepared for it, and Zephyr requested that he come here this time. Zephyr also received news about Sengoku's strategic layout in New World. Sengoku understands. It seems that Atlas is no longer willing to be lonely after 2 years in the recruiting camp. After all, men like this belong to the cruel battlefield. After listening to Atlas's words, Sengoku already had a plan in mind for where Atlas would go after graduation. Okay, please leave first. I will inform you of the content of your graduation trial then. In fact, Atlas originally told Zephyr that he planned to graduate from the recruitment camp now. After all, he has already learned everything he thinks he should learn, and his armed color has been awakened. It is a waste to stay in the recruitment camp now. It's better to go out and experience it early. Maybe you can hone your weapon color more deeply. But Zephyr rejected his proposal outright, thinking that his arm color had just awakened, and at least he had to be proficient in some basic uses of arm color before he could officially graduate. Moreover, Atlas's life return was still not at a certain level. Right now, he can only put his consciousness into his arms. If he stays in the training camp, Zephyr can also give him some advice in this regard. Once Atlas completely returns his life and successfully cultivates, he will basically be able to run rampant in the paradise. Even if he encounters a big pirate in the New World, he will still be able to fight. Chapter 45, the capital of 7 waters. The location of your graduation trial this time is G8 Fortress, and the commander is Jonathan Vice Admiral. Although there are rumors that G8 Fortress is a large and inappropriate fortress, don't underestimate Jonathan. Just ask him for more advice after you get there. In the waters near Marineford, a speedboat flying the Marine flag was galloping quickly in the uninhabited waters. Atlas on the boat was steering the rudder of the speedboat with some boredom. His destination this time was the G8 Fortress. That is where he will conduct his graduation trials in the next 3 months. Originally, according to the practice of previous years, the headquarters should dispatch warships to send the recruits who participated in the trial to their respective assigned warships one by one. However, Atlas's situation is a bit special. He applied for early graduation on his own, and it is impossible for the headquarters to specially a warship was sent to pick him up, and Sengoku and the others were very confident about Atlas's strength. So under Sengoku's decision, he was assigned a speedboat that had been eliminated by Marine as a means of transportation. When will this broken ship get to the G8 Fortress? Atlas was speechless, saying that even the eliminated speedboat shouldn't be so useless. Feeling a little bored, Atlas picked up the chart next to him and read it. This chart was specially surveyed and mapped by the Marine troops. It is much more precise than any chart on the market. After all, every Marine uses it. Life upholds justice. Sometimes a detailed chart may be a life-saving straw. Eni's lobby used to be the capital of the 7 waters. It's a good place to upgrade this broken ship. Atlas silently planned in his mind, and then took out the permanent pointer to the capital of the 7 waters that Zephyr gave him before leaving. The capital of 7 waters is the Royal Shipyard of Marine. It can be said that the best shipbuilding craftsmen in the world are gathered there. Even many of the pirate ships were produced in the capital of Seven Waters. However, it is not known whether the construction of the sea train has been completed. Alice thought with some anticipation. Time passed bit by bit, and Atlas, who had been sailing for several days, was finally able to vaguely see the outline of the Seven Waters capital. The main part of the urban architecture of the Seven Waters city is in the shape of a dome, a very Muslim-style building. The upper part is a huge fountain, and special sea currents constantly maintain its operation. The main body of the entire island is like a bunker. There are 7 huge passages above the bunker. Ships from all walks of life can sail into the Seven Waters capital from here. There are also ports next to the passages for ships to dock. Due to its special status, the capital of Seven Waters has a lot of people coming and going. It can be said that it is a mixed bag of good and bad. So even if Atlas is wearing a marine uniform, he will not look particularly out of place here. Of course, if there is any unopened sea, if the thief wants to cause trouble, Atlas doesn't mind adding to his military exploits. But Atlas did not enter through these 7 waterways. Instead, according to what Zephyr said, he bypassed the front and walked towards Hulk Island in the capital of Seven Waters. Unlike the Hulk Island in Atlas' memory, the Hulk Island at this time was filled with all kinds of materials and garbage, and looked a bit dilapidated and desolate. Maybe Frankie's family had not yet been established, so it was a little chaotic. Hulk Island was once the location of Tom's workshop, the largest shipyard in the capital of Seven Waters. However, it was revealed to be Roger's shipbuilder and was sentenced to death by the world government. However, Tom asked the world government to complete the construction. The sea train died generously again. But in the end, the world government agreed to Tom's request and said that if the project was completed on time, he would be exempted from the death penalty. After Atlas landed on Hulk Island, a young man with blue spiky hair and wearing only a pair of red underwear walked towards him. He looked to be about the same age as Atlas. He looked at Atlas with some caution. The marine uniform on his body said, "Who are you?" "We do not provide shipbuilding services here for the time being." Frame, his previous name, didn't have a good impression of people from world government, even though Marine was just one of the affiliated organizations of world government. Kid, are you the talker here? I'll come over to find Mr. Tom." Atlas looked at this strange young man and said, in fact, he has not thought about buying a speedboat, but because he is short of money now, he has to try his luck here. Maybe Tom just likes him. Just fix it for him. What do you want to do with Tom? He's not here. When Frame heard that he was looking for Tom, a trace of panic flashed across his face. However, he wisely did not reveal the relationship between himself and Tom's master and apprentice, but instead placed his hope that he could send Atlas away. "Well, I'm asking Mr. Tom to help me renovate the ship. Of course, Mr. Tom's disciples can also do it," Atlas said, looking up and down at Flam, who was a little stiff with a meaningful look. Yes, I'm Tom's favorite disciple, Frame." Seeing that his little idea was revealed, Frame did not hide it anymore and made his identity clear. "However, we don't have time to renovate the ship for you." In fact, it was not Frame who deliberately made things difficult for Atlas, but because Tom was building a sea train and Frame had been helping, and this was related to Tom's wealth and life. Even if Tom himself doesn't care about it, it's impossible for the disciples like him not to take it to heart. Okay then. Sorry to bother you, kid." Atlas heard this and no longer forced Frame. He was not the kind of person who liked to force others to make things difficult. Since the other party was like this, he simply refused, so Atlas could only think of other options. Maybe there would be some kind-hearted pirates who would donate generously, Atlas thought with some self-comfort. "Wait a minute, Brother Marine. I can modify the ship for you." Just as Atlas turned around to leave, a rich male voice appeared behind Frame. Atlas narrowed his eyes and looked at the man in front of him with blue-purple hair and a little beard on his chin. He was wearing a boatman's uniform. His work clothes were a little dirty. He had obviously just come back from work, but there was something in the pocket of his black work clothes. A snow-white mouse head is revealed, which looks a bit weird. What a strange combination, Atlas commented in his mind. Iceberg. Frame was a little confused and didn't understand why the iceberg came. Originally, He was about to send away the Marine in front of him. "Hello, my name is Bing Shan, and I am a disciple of Master Tom." Bing Shan did not give Frame a chance to ask questions, and slowly stretched out his rough palm in front of Atlas. Chapter 46 G8 Branch. My name is Kano's Atlas, Captain of Naval Headquarters. Atlas didn't mind, and went straight up to shake Bing Shan's hand, then looked at the man with some confusion, quietly waiting for his words. Flam snorted with disdain, obviously looking down on Atlas's position. Atlas doesn't care. As for his position, he estimates that he will be officially appointed to a new military rank after he returns to his headquarters to report on his duties. "Sir Atlas, I can help you modify the ship for free, but I hope you agree to a condition," Bing Shan explained, ignoring the unhappy Fram. "Oh, tell me about it." Atlas was a little curious. Logically speaking, what kind of help could he, a small captain, do to them? Tom was mostly exposed to high-level things, such as world government, Roger, and the like. "I hope that if we are no longer here one day, Mr. Atlas can help take care of Flam." Hey, hey, Bing Shan, what nonsense are you talking about on your own?" At this time, Frame didn't buy it when he heard this and said a little speechlessly, "Then why did Mr. Bing Shan choose to entrust me with a little captain?" Atlas had to admire Bing Shan's vision and foresight. Although world government granted Tom amnesty, he was still not convinced of world government's credibility. Strong man. I feel the power of a strong man in you." "Oh, really? Then I will leave my ship to you. I will pick it up in 3 days. But let me make it clear first, I am a Marine." After saying that, he didn't care whether Bing Shan understood it or not. He turned around and left. He still had to find a place to stay and wait for his ship to be renovated. "Who would need to be taken care of by a stinky guy like you?" Frame's somewhat angry voice came from behind Atlas. 3 days later, it was still Hulk Island. Atlas and Bing Shan met here as promised, but that brat Frame did not follow him, and the two of them tacitly agreed not to talk about the conditions for that day. This was an agreement between men, and Bing Shan believed it. "Atlas will comply. Let's go. Your speedboat is still in the same place." The two of them didn't exchange greetings when they met, and went straight to the point where Atlas' speedboat was parked. Soon, Atlas saw the speedboat he had longed for. It could be said that it looked completely different from the one he had before. The pure white color scheme was a bit like the small yacht in Atlas's impression. The layout on the boat was nothing. Big changes, still a separate bedroom and storage room. It can only be said that the appearance is very different from the previous one, but Atlas did not observe the power system he wanted to modify for the time being. So he turned his head slightly and looked at the iceberg with confusion. "Your hull is too small to add a new power system, so I used some impact shells to install on the stern, but the material of the hull is what it is, so it may not be able to withstand the impact of the impact shells for too long." Bing Shan glanced at Atlas, fearing that Atlas didn't know what an impact shell was, and continued to explain. "This impact shell is produced in the White Sea of Sky Island. It is rarely circulated in King High, so the number is somewhat scarce. The price is also relatively expensive. It's okay. I don't need to drive for a long time anyway." Atlas waved his hand nonchalantly. Anyway, he only needed it for the journey to the G8 branch. It didn't matter if it was scrapped after arriving. "Oh, by the way, what's its speed?" "The speed can reach 70 knots per hour. So fast." Atlas was a little surprised. You must know that 70 nautical miles is equivalent to about 129 kilometers, which means that this small speedboat can reach a speed of 129 kilometers per hour, which would be said to be very fast. It's scary. With the help of this ship, it won't be long before we can reach the G8 branch. Sure enough, sharpening a knife is as good as chopping wood, and it was not worth his days of tossing here. Hey, Iron Wall Fortress G8. Pirates, don't even try to get close to it. 188 cannons pointed at you. The peacekeeping hedgehog. G8 we are proud of. After several days of running around, Atlas finally reached the G8 branch. I have to say that the transformation of this speedboat was really good, and it took much less time than Atlas expected. But before entering G8 Fortress, I heard bursts of singing. "What a branch with different styles," Atlas said with emotion. From the front, G8 Fortress is truly worthy of the title of Fortress. The entire fortress is mainly composed of a ring-shaped island. There are steel patrol towers and various military arrangements on the island. The entire closed loop only has one opening. The opening serves as the entrance and exit of the fortress, and a huge steel gate blocks the exit. It can be said that if you enter, you will definitely have no chance of escaping. As for Luffy's exit in the original work, it is purely due to the care of the protagonist's halo. In addition to the terrain, basically every corner is tightly fortified, and there are more than 100 cannons mounted on the iron walls of the fortress, exuding a deep chill, but I don't know if it is like what the song says. 188 door. It can be said that it is worthy of being the branch starting with Marine G. Hey, I am Recruit Atlas from the headquarters. Sengoku Admiral asked me to come here for the recruitment camp graduation trial. Atlas stood on the speedboat and shouted to Marine patrolling above. I'm going to ask for permission right now. The Marine patrolling the fortress heard the order from Sengoku Admiral and immediately did not dare to neglect it. He quickly went to ask his superiors for instructions, but did not directly open the door to Atlas. Just kidding. This is a military base directly controlled by naval headquarters. How could someone just open the door with just a few words? Soon, a big man with a hairy face, wearing a marine hat and a marine justice coat, appeared above the fortress. He looked a little anxious. After arriving, he rushed forward with half of his body almost leaning out of the fortress. Alice was really afraid that he would suddenly fall. Hey, is this Captain Kano's Atlas? That's right. Please open the door and let me in. Atlas replied calmly. Boom! Squeak as soon as he finished speaking. The huge steel gate slowly rose from the sea, leaving just an entrance for Atlas's speedboat to enter. Hello, Captain Atlas. I am Drake. I hold the position of Major in this fortress. If you have any questions, you can tell me. Teacher Zephyr has personally told me. Drake looked at the young man in front of him with some emotion. He really couldn't believe that this was the monster that Zephyr said could rival Vice Admiral. When he thought about himself again, he suddenly felt that he had lived as long as a dog. Chapter 47, Jonathan, Vice Admiral Drake? Alice was a little confused. Isn't this the name of the fallen Rear Admiral in the future? Logically speaking, he should still be suffering abuse on his undercover father's ship at this time, right? And it doesn't seem like that guy looks like that either. He probably just happens to have the same name. Hello, Major Drake. Please give me some advice. Atlas came back to his senses and quickly greeted the hairy-faced Major. Then I'll take you to the arranged accommodation and rest first. Drake was obviously impatient. Before even saying a few words to Atlas, he hurriedly took Atlas towards the dormitory. After about half an hour, Atlas finally arrived at the dormitory building. As for the accommodation environment, Drake arranged a single-room dormitory for Atlas. After all, Zephyr had instructed him to give Atlas some preferential treatment. Considering that Atlas had traveled for a long time before arriving at the fortress, Drake said goodbye to Atlas after giving some instructions. Atlas washed up a little, took off his clothes, and fell asleep. After all, he hadn't had a good sleep these days, and even Superman's body couldn't bear it. As night falls, black becomes the main theme. The G8 fortress is still brightly lit, and soldiers coming and going are patrolling in an orderly manner. Atlas, who had just woken up, stretched out comfortably and looked at the G8 fortress in the night. He decided to go to the cafeteria to have dinner first, then walk around and get familiar with the environment. This was where he would be for the next 3 years, the place where he wants to stay. So, Atlas ran out of the dormitory building and followed various signs to find the canteen. They're all vegetables. I don't like cauliflower and carrots. What is the second rule of the 8th branch? I know, look, I ate it. Atlas, who had just walked to the door of the cafeteria, was a little stunned when he heard the conversation between a man and a woman. Logically speaking, there should be no one in the restaurant at this time. But Atlas didn't care. After all, there are strange people in this world, and maybe they just like to eat so late. Thinking of Atlas, I planned to open the door of the restaurant. There was a man and a woman sitting at the dining table. The man had burgundy hair, a thick mustache, and a Chinese character face. He was wearing a marine uniform, and the woman had long hair. She is very beautiful, wearing a chef's hat on her head, and looks like a kitchen staff in the canteen, but the two of them look very close. When they saw the door open from the outside, Jonathan and Jessica suddenly looked surprised. The two of them deliberately chose this time to come to the restaurant when no one was around. "Hey, Marine over there, are you new here? Do you know the rules of the fortress?" Jessica saw that Atlas came in a little strangely, so she asked a little fiercely. Jonathan, who was sitting aside, didn't know what he was thinking about. His eyes kept dripping, and he looked at Atlas up and down. "My name is Kanos Atlas, a recruit from this headquarters. As for the rules of the fortress, sorry, I came here on the first day and didn't know. Jonathan, Vice Admiral." Atlas was a little confused. Major Drake had never told him what the rules were in G8 Fortress. As for why he recognized Jonathan at once, it wasn't that Atlas had seen him before, but the epaulets on Jonathan's coat of justice told him. Jonathan was probably the only commander in the entire fortress with the rank of Vice Admiral. First, wash your hands before eating. Second, there must be no leftovers. Third, don't talk about work during meals. Fourth, you must brush your teeth after meals. Boy, you haven't washed your hands yet. Jonathan on the side was somewhat complimentary. Yes, Atlas responded loudly, and then went straight to the sink in the kitchen. He was still a person who followed the Romans. Since he came to the G8 Fortress, he had to abide by the rules of the fortress. Miss Chef, could you please help me prepare a sumptuous dinner?" After washing his hands, Atlas said with some grit. After all, his stomach was already protesting strongly. As for whether he would offend this lady who seemed to be untouchable, Atlas couldn't care so much, although she seemed to be either Jonathan's girlfriend or his wife. Just call me Jessica. As for the food, sit down and wait, and I will prepare it for you." Fortunately, this female chef named Jessica is more considerate and not as violent as she appears. At least as a chef, she is undoubtedly very qualified, which makes Atlas he took a long breath. These are really unpleasant vegetables. Jonathan on the side couldn't help but frowned and complained when he saw Jessica leaving. But he kept moving his hands and ate all the vegetables on the plate in a few clicks. Obviously, he had no intention of the fortress that Jessica had planned. The rules are also followed diligently. "Vice Admiral Jonathan, I want to take over the mission tomorrow and start killing pirates." Atlas sat down across from Jonathan. Seeing that dinner was settled, Atlas couldn't help but have ideas about the next graduation trial. Now, what is the third rule of the branch? Boy, Jonathan did not answer Atlas's question, but instead asked about the fortress rules that had just been displayed. Atlas raised his eyebrows when he heard this, then fell silent and waited quietly for dinner. After having enough wine and food, "Let's go, kid. Come to a place with me." Seeing Atlas sweeping away the food on the table like a whirlwind, Jonathan stood up and motioned for Atlas to follow him. So, Atlas watched as Jonathan took out fishing rods from the office, then ran to a corner of the fortress to catch fish. "I'm sorry, I only have one fishing rod here, don't you mind?" Jonathan looked at Atlas with empty hands, scratched his head, and smiled. Hey, Jonathan, Vice Admiral, you don't look embarrassed like this." Atlas couldn't help but complain in his heart, but what came out of his mouth was completely different. "It's okay, Jonathan, Vice Admiral, I don't really like fishing." That's good, but you kid." Jonathan narrowed his eyes and continued. "I never fish for nothing." About my mission, Atlas didn't understand what Jonathan meant, but he still picked up the question he had just interrupted in the restaurant. "Well, let's go find Drake tomorrow." What a hot-tempered brat. Chapter 48 Intelligence, the first half of the Grand Line, is a place called Paradise. A somewhat awkward pirate ship was swaying on the sea. The broken hull seemed to tell the story of the fierce battles it had experienced before. Only the pirate flag hanging on the thick mast was left. The torn piece of cloth is lingering. Captain, Gallo, and the others, their life cards have been burned out. A guy with a white gauze on his head and a bandage on his arm shouted in horror. As soon as the words fell, the somewhat silent atmosphere on the boat was suddenly broken, like a stone thrown into a calm lake, stirring up thousands of waves. Finally, everyone couldn't stand the despair in their hearts and cried loudly. "Woo! We shouldn't go to the New World. What kind of monsters are they?" Got it, stop screaming. A bald man with rough skin and slightly dark skin impatiently shouted to stop some noisy pirates. He seemed to be the captain of this pirate ship, but there was no trace of sadness on the face at the news of the death of the comrade who stayed behind. There was no sadness or joy in his face. Only a trace of fear remained in the eyes that were not very big. Otherwise, just find a place to be a rich man with peace of mind. The captain was a little tired and even thought about retiring. The reason for this was not only the large number of casualties of the personnel and the destruction of the fleet, but also the fear of that man who was like a devil. Everyone on the ship was still immersed in fear and sorrow, unaware that their captain planned to take away the only treasure left on the ship and become a rich man. Of course, even knowing it is of no use, because this is the sorrow of the weak. Dong dong dong, dong dong dong. Atlas came to the staff office early the next morning. Maybe it was too early. Major Drake was the only one in the office at this time, but the door of the office was not closed, but Atlas was still polite. The ground knocked on the door. Is something wrong? Captain Atlas. Drake was a little surprised to see Atlas standing at the door. He quickly stopped what he was doing and asked Atlas's purpose in confusion. Major Drake, Vice Admiral Jonathan, called me here. Jonathan, Vice Admiral? Drake asked in confusion. You just arrived at the base yesterday, and you only met Jonathan, Vice Admiral? Immediately, Atlas briefly explained his purpose to Major Drake. You want to go out of the fortress to participate in the mission? Drake looked a little surprised. Didn't you just settle down yesterday? Don't you need to rest in the base for a few days before going on the mission? It's okay, Major Drake. I'm in good condition now and can participate in the mission of catching pirates at any time. Okay, then. Major Drake hesitated for a moment, then immediately started rummaging through the desk full of official documents. After a while, Drake shook his head apologetically and said, Sorry, because our fortress is in a relatively forward position in the first half of the Grand Line, so it is relatively peaceful. We can only provide you with some information about pirates and battleship operations. There are relatively few, but a group of pirates who recently returned from the New World will pass near the fortress tomorrow. Drake hesitated again and said, However, I personally do not recommend that you pursue this pirate group. There is a group of new pirates here who have just entered the Grand Line from the Four Seas. With your strength, it should be more than enough to chase them. Obviously, Drake somewhat discounted Zephyr's evaluation of Atlas's strength that he heard from Jonathan, thinking that it was just a teacher's habitual exaggeration of his favorite disciple. I want to know the information about the pirates who came back from New World. Atlas didn't bother to care about what Drake was thinking. Anyway, he was too lazy to spend time dealing with that little miscellaneous fish. But seeing that Drake wanted to say something else, Atlas took the information in his hand, politely thanked Drake, and left. One arrogant brat. Drake looked at Atlas retreating back, slightly annoyed. But he turned around and hurriedly ran out of the staff office and walked to the base commander's office. Atlas, who left the office, naturally did not notice Drake's behavior. He picked up the still warm piece of information in his hand and read it. The Ekram Pirates, Captain Ekram, has a bounty of 200 million Baileys. Vice Captain Wirtz has a bounty of 160 million, and Officers Gallo, IBE, and Duarte have a bounty of 50 million each. It ranges from 90 million to 90 million. Katakuri encountered the Big Mom Pirates in the New World. He was defeated and seriously injured and escaped. Only one of the 3 fleets was left. Most of the crew members were killed or injured. The life and death of the vice captain was unknown. All the cadres were left behind. New World. Hey, I thought it was some kind of big pirate, but it turned out to be just a lost dog. Atlas curled his lips and said with some disdain, It is estimated that this group of pirates wanted to challenge Big Mom in a pretentious manner, but the whole army was wiped out before they even saw him. There's always a shortage of such self-righteous guys in this sea. According to the route of this group of pirates, it is expected that they will pass through the waters near G8 tomorrow, so Atlas now plans to visit the training ground of the fortress. The training ground of G8 Fortress is very large. Whether it is the walls, floor, or ceiling, they're all wrapped in thick iron sheets, which is just enough for people to show off their skills without fear of damaging the venue. With Atlas's current physical strength, Ordinary training can no longer meet his needs, and there are no sparring partners like Zephyr and Shizo here. As for Jonathan Vice Admiral, although he and Sakazuki were from the same training camp, and the two seemed to have a good relationship, and it was expected that their strength would not be too bad, it was impossible for the top officer of the fortress to neglect his official duties and come to accompany him. A little captain was making fists and kicks. So Atlas chose the simplest training method and asked someone from the logistics department for a huge piece of hardened steel. He could only use his fist to deal with it first. The time for training always passed quickly, and it was night again in the blink of an eye. Atlas looked at the pitted iron body in front of him and the blood dripping from it and let out a long breath. He did not cover his fists with military colors, but struck with pure bare fists, so his fists were always stuck in a cycle of injury healing injury, but the effect was quite remarkable. Atlas glanced at the sky outside the window, cleaned up the traces after training, and walked towards the cafeteria, but he did not see Vice Admiral Jonathan today. Chapter 49, The Defeated Dog Howls at the G8 Fortress Port. A marine blue single-person speedboat was quietly moored there. This speedboat is the same as the one that Atlas drove from the headquarters before. They are both standard military speedboats. However, due to the transformation of the impact shell, the speedboat supports Atlas when he comes to the G8 fortress. Passed away and passed away. The speedboat in front of him was obtained by Atlas from an old man in the maintenance team of the branch. It took Atlas several bottles of wine to successfully get the speedboat approved. After a while, Atlas headed out of the fortress in the drunken morning light. The sun penetrates the clouds and shines evenly on the blue sea. After several hours of sailing, the huge G8 fortress was already out of reach, and it was surrounded by nothingness, giving people a sense of confusion. Well, we should be able to meet the Ekram pirates if we follow the route. Atlas carefully compared the information in his mind to pass the boring time on the sea voyage. Near the sea area of G8 Fortress, a battle-damaged and dilapidated pirate ship was swaying on the vast sea, with a few bandaged pirates sitting sparsely on the wide deck. Many of them seemed to be strangely pale due to excessive blood loss. A mast covered with scars leaned against a bald man with a cold expression, but his face looked much rosier, as if the previous injury had almost healed. Ekram, where are our next plans? Next to the bald man was a pirate who looked very sick. He seemed to be recovering from a serious illness, but his words did not show the same fear as others towards the bald man. Let's go back to South Blue to recruit the men we lost, and then consider the next step. Ekram slowly told his plan to Vice Captain Wirtz, but Wirtz didn't notice the ruthlessness flashing in Ekram's eyes. Captain Ekram. At this moment, on the only intact watchtower on the ship, a pirate in charge of reconnaissance suddenly changed his face and quickly warned Ekram. Oh no, Marine is found at the 3 o'clock direction. Ekram and Wirtz were also a little nervous. You must know that they have lost so many personnel, and most of their main combat effectiveness has been lost. Although they will not completely lose their combat effectiveness, their ability to fight against the enemy will definitely be greatly reduced. Now, they meet Marine. The two people immediately looked at each other and asked loudly, "How many people are there on the other side?" They were ready for a last-ditch battle, and Ekram's idea of retirement became stronger. This he was so cruel that he was tired. It seems to be. The investigating pirate was a little unsure. Just a Marine. What? The pirates on the pirate ship were a little frightened and angry. Although they lost a lot of people in New World, they were still among the best pirates in the park. Just sending a Marine to chase them would be a bit despising them. Children, get the boat over to Lousy. Kill that guy for Lousy. Ekram opened his mouth cruelly, with a cruel look in his eyes, as if he wanted to vent his recent dissatisfaction on the incoming Marine. At this time, Atlas also discovered the broken ship of the Ekram pirates and immediately stood up from the speedboat. Moonwalk. There seemed to be invisible stairs in the air. Atlas slowly climbed up the stairs and looked down at the panicked pirates on the deck. Why panic? It's just moonwalk, Ekram shouted. As a pirate who has arrived in the New World, he will naturally not be intimidated by the mere Marine sick styles. At most, he will be wary of the young Marine in front of him. Although monsters are everywhere in the New World, it is still relatively rare for Marines to moonwalk in the park. What's more, this guy only has the rank of captain, so he may be a monster secretly cultivated within Marine. Hey, that little Marine over there. Lousy is Ekram with a bounty of 200 million belly. Ekram obviously flinched, hoping that his huge bounty would scare Atlas away, but he obviously misjudged the situation. The higher his bounty, the more excited Atlas became. I know, it's just a lost dog. As soon as he finished speaking, before Ekram could get angry, Atlas had already touched third-generation Kitetsu on his waist. Yidaliu, Xinglua. Countless huge slashes were directed towards the pirate ship below like falling meteors. The expressions of a large number of pirates were suddenly frozen in shock at the last moment. The originally broken pirate ship was directly cut into pieces by a large number of slashes. Crumbs. A hole. Lousy is going to kill you. Looking at the pirate ship that had been reduced to pieces and the corpses that were constantly floating, Ekram couldn't help but cursed angrily. Of course, he didn't feel sorry for these men. They can be recruited at any time when they are gone, but their only remaining treasure completely sank to the bottom of the sea under Atlas's slash, and his dream of becoming a rich man was also shattered. Ekram, calm down. Wirtz, who survived on the side, tried to hold back the furious Ekram. Now there were only 2 of them left in the huge pirate group, and now they didn't even have a place to stand, and most of their bodies were soaked in water. Fortunately, the only thing is that neither of them have fruit abilities. Soon, the 2 found a relatively large wreckage and barely avoided the embarrassing situation of being soaked in the seawater. And Atlas watched them struggle quietly in midair. Although hovering in the air with moonwalk consumes a lot of physical strength, it is nothing compared to Atlas's bottomless physical fitness. Master Marine, can you let us go? I just want to retire and become a rich man. Ekram, who had calmed down, immediately began to beg for mercy after seeing Atlas's terrifying strength. But Atlas' keen sense of knowledge still captured the murderous aura in this guy. The howl of a defeated dog. Atlas sneered and waved the third-generation Kitetsu in his hand again. Hey. Lousy is willing to impel down. Lousy surrenders. Spare me. Please capture me and impel down. A whole Marine. Lousy will never let you go, even if he dies. What ABD Marine? Atlas turned a deaf ear to Ekram's pleas and insults. After all, who would argue with a dead man? One-blade-style crescent moon. The rich armament color clung to third-generation Kitetsu, and a crescent-shaped slash came out from the sword. Soon, a line of blood slowly appeared on the bodies of Ekram and Wirtz. The huge, slashing power continued unabated and slashed backwards. The scarlet seawater was immediately cut in half. The sea breeze is gentle. Their bodies were suddenly broken along the bloodline. Their upper bodies were lying on the sea surface, and their lower bodies were sitting cross-legged on the wreckage. From a distance, it looks like a lost dog. Chapter 50 Rising to Fame. Scattered shipwrecks floated on the sea. The blue water was stained scarlet with blood, and there were mutilated corpses everywhere. From time to time, there were 1 or 2 vultures hovering in the sky, waiting for today's lunch. Atlas took a look at the tragic environment around him and scanned the battlefield over and over again. He would not let a single person survive, and he would do his best to eliminate evil. The ride back was peaceful. After sailing for about a day, Atlas returned to the port of G8 Fortress on a refreshing morning in the gentle sea breeze. Atlas first went to the staff office to report to Major Drake on the specific situation of the battle, and then went to the cafeteria for a hearty meal. He had been eating dry food for the past 2 days, and Atlas felt as if the bird was about to fade out of his mouth. What? You destroyed the entire Ekram pirates alone. At the staff office, Drake's roar came from the office. He was already prepared to receive the news of Atlas's death. Yesterday, he was still complaining that everyone was so willful. Even Jonathan, Vice Admiral, did not object. Atlas's mission, he didn't expect Atlas to give him a surprise today. Well, don't make such a fuss. Atlas picked his ears and said nonchalantly, he is just a loser, and the bounty is too unworthy of the name. I guess this guy Ekram did a lot of burning, killing, and looting. Come on, please tell me the details of your battle in detail. Drake calmed down a little, sat back on the office chair, suppressed the excitement in his heart, and asked Atlas in a gentle manner. Now Drake has completely believed Zephyr's evaluation of Atlas. Just kidding. That was a big pirate with a bounty of 200 million, and there were other pirates with varying bounties. The young man in front of him was destroyed by himself. Even if it's a fight, it's amazing. As for the suspicion that Atlas lied about his military exploits, are you kidding me? He is just a living resource for Marine's intelligence agency. It is impossible for such a large pirate group to disappear out of thin air. There's a saying that goes, wherever you walk, you will leave traces. Now, well, I just walked over and stabbed him, and then stabbed him again. Well, that's it. Atlas raised his arm and gestured to Drake in a serious manner. Huh, it's gone. Drake, who was about to listen to Atlas's tirade, couldn't help but was speechless. He even took off his pants. Can you show me this? Okay, it's okay. I'm going to report to Vice Admiral Jonathan. You can leave first. Drake looked at Atlas's calm face and was filled with disgusting words. He didn't know where to vomit. After coming out of Drake's office, Atlas went back to his dormitory, took a shower, and rushed to the cafeteria. I don't know if it was because it was mealtime and there were a lot of people coming and going in the cafeteria, so Atlas queued up. It had been a little long, and by the time Atlas had prepared his meal and was about to find a seat to sit down, holy shit, is that the kid? How young? As expected of someone who came out of our elite training camp. How terribly excessive. The noisy discussions continued to penetrate into Atlas's ears. With his current physical condition, even without using observation hockey, he could basically hear any small movement around him clearly, not to mention these soldiers. He didn't cover it up deliberately. After probably eavesdropping for a while, Atlas probably understood the reason why they were discussing him. It turned out that it was Jonathan Vice Admiral who informed the entire fortress of his achievements, which meant that Atlas didn't care much about these things. I don't know, but it can be said that he is now famous in G8 Fortress. After a hearty meal, Atlas sneaked out of the side door of the cafeteria. He didn't want to be watched like a monkey here. Hey, Atlas, I was just looking for you. Vice Admiral Jonathan asked you to come to his office. Not long after Atlas left the cafeteria, he met Drake. Drake was worried about where to find Atlas, but he didn't expect such a coincidence and quickly called Atlas. Yes, dong dong dong. Please come in. Atlas pushed open the door and came in. The base's top officer, Vice Admiral Jonathan, was playing with his beloved fishing rod. When Atlas came in, he gently put the fishing rod aside and crossed his fingers with his hands. On the desk. Well, he is indeed the monster Mr. Zephyr calls him. The big pirate with 200 million belly was easily defeated. Jonathan said in a tepid tone. It could be said that Jonathan belongs to the kind of Buddhist generals, but he is definitely not the fishing-like Buddhist type of Porcelino, but has everything in his hands. That kind of wisdom and composure. But what is strange is that this kind of person is actually close friends with radicals like Sakazuki. From this, it can be seen that this ordinary Mr. Vice Admiral is definitely the kind of person who shows off his appearance. It's just luck, and that guy is also a parallel importer. Atlas said modestly, Now, don't be humble. I'll assign you a mission. Jonathan waved his hand. Just kidding. The reward of 200 million belly cannot be underestimated no matter how low it is. Not to mention that guy is from the New World, even if it's just a pathetic loser. What mission? As soon as he heard that there was another mission to do, Atlas' expression suddenly became serious. There are several pirate groups that have been hanging around Alabasta recently, so I hope you will go and take a look at the situation. Alabasta? This seems to be outside the jurisdiction of our fortress, right? Atlas raised an eyebrow. Ah, indeed, but the branch in charge of that sea area has sent us a message asking for help. I can't just sit back and watch. And this matter may involve Shichibukai. There was a meaningful look in Jonathan's eyes, but his face was calm and unpredictable. Shichibukai? That sand crocodile? Alice was a little surprised. The first thing Atlas thought of about the Shichibukai related to Alabasta was the crocodile guy, but he didn't expect him to take Pluton's mind so quickly. How do you know? That guy disappeared after being taught a lesson by Whitebeard. I didn't expect to hear information about him again in Alabasta. I just don't know what this guy wants to do. Go and deal with those gangs of pirates and see what Crocodile is planning. Okay, I promise to complete the task. Chapter 51/C Circle Calendar 1505 Marine G 8 Fortress Vice Admiral Office. Atlas had already left. Jonathan, with burgundy hair and black mustache, changed into a comfortable posture and leaned back on the back chair. He was holding a document that had just been sent to him. It was Atlas, the whole process of capturing the Ekram pirates. No one is alive. It really looks like that guy's style. Jonathan looked at the closed office door and didn't know what he was thinking. He didn't even notice the files slipping quietly from his fingers. After Atlas said goodbye to Jonathan, he went to the training room at the base to train hard for a few hours and then had a good sleep. After all, he had to rush to Alabasta to check on the situation tomorrow morning. Of course, he is not alone in this mission. Vice Admiral Jonathan has arranged a warship for him to handle the aftermath. Although he is currently only a captain, he has temporary command of the warship. The next day, the warship departed from the fortress port on time and headed in the direction of Alabasta along the route. As for the control of the route, there are naturally dedicated marine navigators to take care of it. Although marine navigators are a scarce resource, that is because of the pirate world. People generally have low levels of education, and few are even literate. But Marine is a school with a complete education system. For soldiers who are not physically gifted, they will be trained in the civilian direction, so Marine strength is definitely the strongest in the sea. It's more comfortable to have someone sailing the boat. Atlas stretched and recalled the days when he was wandering alone on the sea. Not to mention not eating well, he even had someone to talk to him to relieve his boredom. No, adjutant. How long does it take to reach Alabasta? This adjutant was specially assigned to him by Jonathan. He has the same position as Atlas as captain. He is also fascinated by the job levels of G8 Fortress. The highest the commander is Vice Admiral Jonathan, but the second in command is actually just a major. Yes, that guy Drake. Atlas even guessed that Jonathan wanted to be lazy, so he specially promoted Drake to second in command so that he could help him handle his busy official duties and he could fish leisurely by himself. Report to Captain. We are still 3 days away from Alabasta. The adjutant estimated the approximate time and gave Atlas a compromise value. Captain, yes, this is Atlas' current temporary position. Then I will go to the training room and stay for a while. You can control the situation of the warship first. If something goes wrong, call me. Yes. That night, Atlas came out of the training room in time for his meal. Suddenly, the ship underfoot shook violently, and a strong jolting sensation occupied the body and mind. Many Marines couldn't help but scream in surprise. What's going on? Atlas ignored dinner and immediately trotted to the deck to check the cause. Captain, Sea King's attack discovered. The adjutant reported quickly when he saw that Atlas had finished training. Atlas's eyes flashed red when he heard this, and he saw the color and turned it on. In his perception, a huge figure was swimming back and forth under the dark sea surface. The turbulent waves were constantly rolling, and the warship Atlas was on was also constantly shaking with the fluctuations of the waves. Blah, blah, blah. Suddenly, the Sea Kings lurking on the bottom of the sea, like sharks that smelled fishy smell, suddenly attacked Atlas's ship. Under the strong searchlight of the warship, Atlas finally saw clearly the appearance of the Sea Kings that attacked them. This is a Sea Kings that looks a bit like a tiger fish. The whole body is covered with tiger-striped flower Madara. The narrow eyes flash with this crazy violence. The open mouth is neatly lined with sharp teeth. The fishy smell hit my face. Damn it, the adjutant said with some despair in his eyes. This guy is at least 900 meters long, almost as long as some of the medium-sized Sea Kings in the Calm Belt. With the configuration of our warships, we simply can't compete with it. We can only fight to the death. The adjutant turned around and said to Atlas on the side, Sir, please issue an evacuation order immediately. There are several lifeboats on the ship. Let's try our best to stop this big guy first. Buy some time for others to evacuate. Before he could finish rambling, Atlas had already used Moonwalk to fly into the air. Looking levelly at the giant sea kings, Atlas grinned. What bad luck, big fella. The adjutant couldn't help but open his eyes wide, and then plucked his ears. He wondered if he had misunderstood Atlas's meaning. They shouldn't be the unlucky ones. How could they listen to the captain's words? Instead, they were the unlucky ones. Is this Sea Kings? Before the adjutant could recover, Atlas had already drawn the third-generation Kitetsu, and the black and red armed color quickly clung to Atlas's arm and blade, the armed color. Tangled. Atlas has already mastered the technique of entangling. Entangling is no better than letting out. You only need to awaken the weapon color and use it skillfully to master it. One-sword-style Dragon Tail. A horizontal slash was swept out, and the blood-red slash broke through the night, passing through the open, bloody mouth of the Sea Kings. Laugh. The indescribable sharpness almost severed the lower jaw of this Sea Kings. A large amount of blood was spilled, and the deep-sea water glowed with a strange red light under the influence of blood. Roar. Under the pain, the big guy twisted his huge body more and more crazily, and suddenly huge waves rolled in, almost overturning the entire ship. Seeing this situation, Atlas also knew the seriousness of the situation, and he did not make any reservations at the moment. He held the sword in both hands, his muscles bulged, his biceps and triceps grew rapidly, and his thick brachioradialis muscles were like steel. The muscle fibers are clearly defined and wrapped in a rich armed color. One-sword-style martial god, armed starfall. The sparse slashes were like falling meteors, carrying huge power and falling on the Tiger Madara Sea Kings. Soon, the huge body of the Tiger Madara Sea Kings rolled with flesh and blood and roared in despair, but the loss of a large amount of blood made it finally lost its life and floated slowly on the sea. On the entire warship, hundreds of soldiers saw this scene and slowly breathed a sigh of relief. The crisis was over. Clang! Third-generation Kitetsu put the sword into its scabbard, and the crisp sound of gold and iron resounded under the somewhat noisy night sky. Call! Atlas disarmed his hands and returned his life, stepping on a moonwalk and slowly landing on the deck of the warship. Suddenly, a group of sailors who had just been frightened surrounded him, and a whole lot of exclamations and admiration burst out from their mouths. Voice. No wonder Jonathan Vice Admiral appointed Mr. Atlas as captain. It's so strong. Mr. Captain, it's a shame that I wasn't very convinced by Mr. Atlas before. I'm really ashamed. Chapter 52, Alabasta. After a few minutes, everyone on the warship calmed down their enthusiasm, and under the command of the adjutant, they handled the follow-up matters in an orderly manner, cutting up and salvaging the body of the Tiger Madara Sea Kings. In addition to being delicious, the meat of Sea Kings is also very rich in nutritional value. Even the adjutant Lou Salon, as a captain of the fortress, has not eaten it a few times. The night becomes darker and darker, and the stars hanging in the sky become brighter and brighter. The sea breeze gently caressed the sea under the dark night, causing a burst of playfulness. Atlas looked at the depth ahead contentedly, holding a toothpick in his hand to casually remove the Sea King's meat shreds from the gaps between his teeth. Go out. Hiccup. He burped with satisfaction. To be honest, the chefs who came with the ship were really good at their craftsmanship. I have to say that Chef Jessica's training level was quite good. She would definitely recruit a few chefs when she goes on missions in the future. Come up. Atlas looked at the busy and orderly Marines on the ship. Atlas inexplicably thought of Smoker and the guys. They had just parted ways not long ago. Colonel Randall also asked me to take more care of Smoker. I seem to be a bit incompetent in doing this, and I don't know what they're doing now. Rosanani Atlas suddenly remembered that Rosanani would go to Doflamingo as an undercover agent at about this time. Could it be that this guy followed him and also applied for early graduation? I don't know what is in this guy's head. Although Rosanani usually looks frizzy, he is actually a very gentle and kind person at heart. Atlas plans to go to North Blue when he has time in the future. Rosanani can't just die like this, otherwise that kid Smoker will definitely be very sad. Yes, it's that Smoker guy. It has nothing to do with me. A few days later, a huge sea beast with the upper body of a cat and the lower body of a fish appeared in the sight of the Marines on the warship, which foreshadowed Atlas and his team. Alabasta, here we come. Finally, Atlas and his team successfully landed on Shungting Island, the island where Alabasta is located. The warship docked at Rapeseed Port. After leaving some Marines to station on the warship, Atlas took his adjutant Lu Silon to ask for a meeting. King Cobra of Alabasta. It has to be said that Alabasta's climate is harsh enough, with wind and sand everywhere, making it the natural home of crocodile. In addition, the historical text with clues to Pluton is also hidden in this country. No wonder the sand crocodile guy is eyeing this place. There is still a certain distance between the port city of Rapeseed and Albana, the capital of Alabasta. If it weren't for the fact that the royal family of Alabasta, the Nefertali clan, were once descendants of 20 kings and had a special status in many of the world government's participating countries. Atlas didn't want to travel long distances to their capital to meet Cobra, even if he could get some relevant information from Cobra. But as a time traveler, Atlas had already preconceptions that Crocodile was the one responsible, even though he had no evidence for the time being. Soon, Atlas and Luslan came to Urpana and successfully met Cobra in the conference hall of the palace. Now Cobra is far from as old as in the comics. His black hair is tied back, and there are not too many wrinkles on his face. He just has a beard that is not too thick. But the whole person does not have the majesty of a king, but smiles like the uncle next door. He didn't know if it was because of the baby with short blue hair in his arms, or because the current Alabasta was not as troubled by rebellions as it would be more than 10 years later. Haha, I'm sorry, Mr. Marine. My daughter, Vivi, is too clingy and can't live without me. Please forgive me. Cobra said apologetically. It can be said that the king of the franchising country is known for his compassion for his citizens. He even treated the 2 Marine captains with great courtesy. Ah, excuse me, Your Majesty Cobra. We are Marine from the G8 Fortress. We received a request for help from the nearby Marine base, so we came to your country to cause trouble. Atlas did not mince words and made it clear to Cobra directly. I believe that Cobra will understand the meaning of his words and provide him with some useful information. Are you talking about the pirates who often harass Aluma? Cobra was stunned for a moment, then seemed to think of something and asked with some uncertainty. Now, the message for help is that there are several pirate groups that have been harassing your country. I don't know the specific location, but King Cobra, didn't you send personnel to attack? Alice was a little confused. It stands to reason that Alabasta's national strength is not weak. There are 600,000 standing soldiers at the bottom level. Ordinary pirates would not dare to invade Alabasta. Even slightly stronger pirates have 2 guardian gods to deal with it. How could this happen? There is nothing I can do about a group of pirates. Of course, the so-called 2 patron saints do not refer to gods in the true sense, but 2 relatively powerful Zoan devil fruits. I don't know how Alabasta keeps holding these 2 devil fruits. You must know that once the Esper dies, the fruit's ability regenerates randomly around the world, which is why Vegapunk later discovered some of the devil fruit's rebirth patterns. I have sent my escort adjutant Bell several times, but every time I arrived at Iruma, the pirates seem to have received the news in advance and fled. You must know that Bell is Zoan bird fruit. The Esper in the form of a falcon is very mobile, but every time he pounces, he misses everything. Cobra said with a headache, even his brows knitted together unconsciously. At this time, a chubby little hand stretched out from his arms, seeming to want to smooth Cobra's frown. But due to my arms are too short and I can only touch his stubble-covered chin, Cobra lowered his head and saw his daughter, who was so understanding. His heart almost melted. He couldn't help but kiss Vivi's tender forehead tenderly, making the little angel laugh. This made Cobra's heart melt. The gloom of my heart suddenly dissipated a lot. Suddenly, a soldier in light armor trotted up to Cobra, then bent down and whispered to him the news he had just received. Okay, that's the end of today's meeting. I just received information that those pirate groups have come to the waters near Alabasta again. If Mr. Marine needs any help, I will do my best to cooperate. Cobra's expression changed, and he immediately stood up and said to Atlas. With Cobra's eyesight, He could naturally see that Atlas was the main person in charge of this support operation. Okay then, Your Majesty Cobra, we will take our leave first. Chapter 53 Fishing. Well, what a coincidence. After leaving the capital of Aruba, Atlas really didn't want to hurry, so he found 2 running ducks as transportation. He could only say that running fast was indeed the fastest creature in Alabasta, and it almost saved them nearly 1,000,000 miles. Half the time of traveling. The city where the pirates are active is on the other side of Alabasta. Sinton Island is almost divided into 2 halves by a huge strait. On one side is the capital and port city of Alabasta, and on the other side are cities such as Aluma and Rainland. The city occupied by Crocodile in the future. Alabasta is limited by the climate. Large cities are built on oases, so the distribution of cities is irregular. What Atlas has to do now is to return to the warship and sail to Aluma, where he might even encounter the raging pirates. Helmsman, prepare. Set sail, target, Aluma. As soon as he returned to the warship, Adjutant Lou Salon immediately commanded the movement of the warship in an orderly manner. Lou Lands was not a combat-oriented talent, and the overall command and arrangement of the warship was just right, so Atlas could feel at ease while driving, hiding in the training room to practice. Although I don't know what the strength of Vice Admiral Jonathan is, in terms of resourcefulness, he is definitely the #1 among the generals in the headquarters. He is very satisfied with the personnel assigned to Atlas for this mission. Rapeseed Flowers is not very far from Aluma, and based on the sailing speed of a warship, it is expected to arrive in about half an hour. However, just when the warship left Rapeseed Flowers, something happened that made Atlas dumbfounded. They actually ran into a group of pirates, and according to the intelligence, it was the Vasili pirates who robbed Alabasta. And the Antalic pirates. According to Atlas's speculation, it is estimated that the previous trip to Aluma was just a smoke bomb. The real purpose was the port city of Rapeseed. Compared with Aluma, Rapeseed has a larger flow of people, undoubtedly richer. Now, let me go and destroy them. Just to stretch my muscles, maybe. Atlas curled his lips as if he thought of something interesting. When he was close to the pirate ship at the front, he dodged to the pirate ship. However, there was no damage to the warship at all. This is because the warship itself is of excellent quality, and the other reason is that Atlas has become more comfortable in using the 6 forms, and its control of power has become more perfect. He casually took the Cloak of Justice behind him and threw it into Lou Lancey's hands. Although he looked handsome in the Coat of Justice, he didn't want to dirty or damage another cloak, and he didn't know about the kind of world-destroying battles in anime. Where did you buy the clothes that can't be broken no matter how hard it is? Now it is common for Atlas to use his hands to burst clothes. Hey, Marine, are you the only one? You really look down on lousy. A man with a sallow complexion looked at Atlas's young face and said ferociously. As a pirate who often dealt with Marines, he naturally recognized that this was a warship from the Marine G8 Fortress. He was a little frightened at first, but when he saw Atlas Captain rank, he suddenly felt annoyed that he had been teased. It's just that you haven't weaned yourself yet. Ha ha. Go home, you brat. All kinds of curses came from all directions, as if this could cover up the embarrassment just now. How ridiculous. What a bunch of bastards. Atlas had no expression for this kind of sea debris. The bounty of the trash fish in front of him was too low for Atlas to remember, so he didn't bother to compare them one by one. Finger pistol gatling. Poof, poof, poof. The vacuum bullets in the sky swamped the group of pirates, penetrating their bodies under the horrified screams of everyone. The pirates who were lucky enough not to be injured were also wailing on the ground, and they no longer regained the arrogance of the previous second. Atlas was not the kind of hard-hearted person, so he decided to give these people a happy life. He directly used Moonwalk to step into the air, put his palms horizontally, and waved forward slightly. Swordless style, Tatsumaki. The messy vacuum instantly sank the pirate ship. As for the pirates who were unable to move due to injuries, they could only pray for themselves and hope that no fish would eat them and die with their bodies intact. The other pirate group that followed behind them saw the whole process in front of their eyes, and they were all shaken like chaff. Elias, come on, Turn around and go, yes. Go to Aluma. Antalik seemed to have grasped a life-saving straw and frantically issued orders to the helmsman. Even his voice was a little crying. Then he hurriedly ran into the captain's cabin, picked up the phone placed on the bedside, and dialed the number in his memory. Hello. Soon, a long transfer scar suddenly appeared on the face of the phone bug. There was a big cigar in his mouth, his eyes revealed gloom, and his deep voice was hoarse, which immediately made Antalik tremble all over, and his figure was gone. Be respectful consciously. Lord Crocodile. Call me Mr. Zero. Yes, Mr. Zero, we're being chased by a marine. I hope you can save us. Antalik said to the phone bug in an almost pleading tone, while a trace of ruthlessness flashed in his eyes. You must know this paragraph. He is helping Crocodile at this time. If he is exposed, Shichibukai's position. Although he didn't know Crocodile's purpose of asking them to harass Alabasta, losing Shichibukai's position should cause a lot of trouble. Okay, come to Eruma. Crocodile on the other end of the phone was silent for a while, and then spoke in a low voice, without revealing any emotion, making Antalik somewhat unable to guess his thoughts. Snap! Crocodile's expression became more gloomy after hanging up the phone. He originally planned to kill Antalik and the others in front of the people of Alabasta sometime later when they were looting, so that he could not only become a hero in the eyes of the people, but also he kills two birds with one stone and silences them. Unexpectedly, Marine unexpectedly disrupts his plan. On the other side, Atlas, who had sent all the members of the Vasili pirates to hell, did not take advantage of the victory to pursue the Antalik pirates. Instead, he walked straight to the warship and calmly took justice from his adjutant. The big cloak is draped on the body. Your Excellency, Captain, why don't you wipe them all out in one fell swoop? Lucilon was a little confused. He would not simply think that Atlas had no physical strength. Just kidding, this amount of activity can only be regarded as a warm-up. When you're fishing, you have to put out bait. Atlas somehow thought of Jonathan Vice Admiral. Chapter 54, Shichibukai Grand Line, Alabasta Waters. The sun is shining brightly and the sky is blue. A pirate ship scurried around the sea in a hurry, as if it had encountered a natural enemy, while a marine warship followed leisurely behind it, like a cat playing with a mouse. Sir, the direction they're traveling seems to be Illuma. Lucilon was a little unsure. After all, he was not a navigator and was not familiar with the routes in the waters near Alabasta. Atlas nodded. He had heard the conversation between Antalik and the mysterious Mr. Crocodile long ago, so it was not surprising. The current coverage of Atlas's knowledge and color can be said to be very wide. Although it is not as good as Fujidora Ishiao, it is only slightly inferior to Enel who got Thunder Fruit. However, the level of refinement needs to be improved, and it is far from foreseeing the future. There's still some way to go. They just occasionally used Tempest Kick to give them a few vacuum slashes to scare them. Even if this group of pirates knew that Atlas was using them to fish out the people behind the scenes, there was nothing they could do, because this was their only chance to survive, and Antalik knew that those were the 7 warlords of the sea. Fly Finger Pistol Bullet. The huge vacuum bullet suddenly hit the head of the watchman of the Antalik pirates at a terrifying speed. Instantly, red and white liquid shot out in all directions, splashing onto the already frightened people below. Pirates, even those who have always loved to kill ordinary people, are equally unbearable when faced with the fear of death. Everyone is equal before death. What an exaggerated finger pistol achievement. Lou Lancy on the side said with emotion. Even if he had already seen Atlas's monster-like physical skills, he was still shocked to see this hugely powerful flying finger pistol again. Well, it's just a small test. Atlas curled his lips indifferently. The next step is up to you. Call me when you get to Illuma, Lou Lancy. As he said that, he walked towards the restaurant. Fighting after living for so long, I feel a little hungry. Okay, sir. Lou Lancy replied in a deep voice. Atlas, the commander, is good at everything, but he doesn't like to take care of things. Soon, the Antalik pirates successfully landed on Eruma, and each one of them suddenly showed a look of joy after the disaster. Although they didn't know who the boss behind them was, but judging from the look on the captain's face, They should be able to escape this devil smoothly. Marine's pursuit. Yes, devil. In the eyes of these pirates, Atlas is a devil. Although they had the ability to deal with them all at once, they suffered tremendous mental torture from sniping down one or two people from time to time. Desert Sunflower. Suddenly, the sand dunes under the feet of this group of pirates began to flow rapidly, as if they were alive, and a huge gravitational force caused them to continue to sink. The pirates suddenly exclaimed, "What's going on? Captain, you. Lousy doesn't want to die yet. Captain, think of a solution quickly." Antalik also looked desperate. The feeling of falling from heaven to hell made him extremely uncomfortable. He could only keep reaching out with his palms, trying to grab something to delay the sinking time. Suddenly, a tall figure wearing a fur coat appeared in front of him, followed by a sky filled with dust and howling wind. Lord Crocodile White. The quicksand had already submerged Antalik, but in the end he did not get an answer from Crocodile, only a pair of indifferent eyes staring at him. "Okay, you can retreat to the warship." "Yes." Atlas, who had been called out by his adjutant Lou Lancey, naturally took all this into account, but he did not step forward to stop it. As a pirate, if you die, you will die. Atlas walked slowly towards Crocodile, with no expression on his face. He just looked at the 7 warlords of the sea who had been canonized by the world government with an expressionless expression. Crocodile looks like a villain at first glance. He is wearing a fur coat. I don't know why he is so resistant to heat. His thick hair is combed back with a very ordinary big back hairstyle and a horizontal slit on his face. Scars run through the entire face. He wears a gold earring on his right ear. His standard dead fish eyes are devoid of emotion. He holds a large cigar in his mouth. A gold hook replaces the palm of his left hand, which is very consistent with Atlas's previous life. Pirate image. Your joke has gone too far, Marine Brat. Seeing that Atlas didn't speak, Crocodile raised his chin slightly, stared at Atlas with the same dead fish eyes that had not changed since 10,000 years, and said, biting to the cigar, also jumped up and down. "Really? Shichibukai, Lord Crocodile, shouldn't you give me an explanation?" Atlas would not be frightened by this sand crocodile, and asked with a smile on his face. Even if Shichibukai is allowed to carry out private plunder by default, that does not include Alabasta, a member country of the world government. Of course, Atlas currently has no conclusive evidence to prove that the group of pirates just now were ordered by Crocodile. But is this important to Atlas? Explanation. Crocodile curled his lips as if mockingly. "You're so naive, Marine Brat. Really? It doesn't matter if you don't admit it. My fist will make you explain obediently later." Atlas twisted his wrist, the smile on his face not diminishing at all. Crocodile may not be as weak as he was defeated by Luffy more than 10 years later. Now he has not completely lost faith in himself, and may be able to use it a little bit. A little hockey, but Atlas is not afraid at all. He can still do it if he teaches this sand crocodile how to behave. Seemingly hearing some ridiculous remarks, Crocodile first let out a deep laugh, which eventually turned into a wild laugh. "It's so boring. What a ridiculous little brat. Haha. Even the garbage on the sea is worthy of calling me ridiculous." Atlas retorted without giving in, with a look of ridicule on his face. Click. Seemingly being angered by Atlas, Crocodile looked ugly and actually bit off the cigar in his mouth and dropped it to the ground. "I'll give you 3 minutes. If you exceed it, I won't accompany you." Then an hourglass was thrown from Crocodile's hand. Judging from the flow rate, the time of the hourglass was exactly 3 minutes. Crocodile's current attitude is like treating an unreasonable child. After all, Atlas is just a small captain on the surface, although Marine's military rank is not completely equivalent to her strength. The difference is not too far, so Crocodile's attitude towards Atlas doesn't take it very seriously. 3 minutes? That's enough. Chapter 55 Beaten Ito Ryu Raikiri. Atlas didn't take Crocodile's contempt to heart at all, and directly pulled out the 3rd-generation Kitetsu from his waist. The bright light of the sword flashed, and a strong sense of sharpness filled the entire space. The whistling sand and dust were, as if the pause button was pressed. A huge blood-red slash struck Crocodile. Crocodile, who looked contemptuous, seemed to have no defense at all. The blood-red slash passed through his body so easily, and his whole body was neatly chopped in half from head to toe. However, the imaginary spurt of blood did not appear. The originally smooth, cut surface slowly turned into grains of yellow sand, and then the incomplete body miraculously recovered. But Atlas didn't expect this casual knife to cause any harm to Crocodile. Swordsman. After recovering, Crocodile's face became a little ugly again. The kid who originally thought he could be easily manipulated turned out to be an iron-slaying swordsman. However, you can't touch me like this. I'm a Logia Sand Fruit user. Even though he was surprised that Atlas was a swordsman, he still did not change having the Sand Fruit. A view of Atlas. Huh, it really makes me unhappy, your face. Atlas put the third-generation Kitetsu into the scabbard and felt a little itchy in his fist. Divine Speed Razor. The ghostly figure kept moving in the air, so fast that Crocodile could hardly see clearly, and he suddenly became more wary of Atlas. Iron Body Fist Shatter. The shadows of fists in the sky almost drowned Crocodile, but he made no move to dodge, as if any unnecessary movement was an insult to his Sand Fruit. As I said, your attacks are useless to me, Crocodile said proudly while maintaining his elementalization. Unless, poof, just when he was proudly enjoying the wrath from Atlas. Atlas had secretly covered his fists with armed colors, catching him off guard and hitting him hard before he could elementalize. Punched Atlas. Armed colors. Crocodile's body quickly transformed into elements, turning into a pool of yellow sand scattered in the desert, then appeared 20 meters away from Atlas and said with gritted teeth, "Haha, are you surprised? Are you surprised?" Atlas's sightings naturally capture Crocodile's figure, but he did not pursue the victory, and this damage did not have much impact on the battle situation. Why is a man like you just a Marine captain? Crocodile finished this sentence almost word by word, his eyes fixed on Atlas, and the arrogance in his expression finally subsided, and he felt for Atlas in his heart. The attention he paid was even more intense, because the previous battle told him that if he still underestimated his enemy, he might be blamed here today. Well, who knows? Atlas obviously had no intention of having a long conversation with the guy in front of him and shrugged off his question. Desert Sunflower. Crocodile repeated his old tricks, controlling the flow of water veins under the desert, forming quicksand that could swallow people. Moonwalk. This trick is of no use to me, Mr. Sand Crocodile. Atlas mocked Crocodile condescendingly, imitating Crocodile's previous tone. Desert Diamond Sword. Although Crocodile's face turned a little ugly, he ignored Atlas's sarcastic words, and his hands turned into 4 huge sand blades, with a sharpness visible to the naked eye coming from above. See and hear. Turn on. Divine Speed Razor. Atlas's eyes flashed red, and his body kept moving in the air to avoid the sand blade. At the same time, the distance between him and Crocodile was getting shorter and shorter. Iron Body Boxing. Warrior Arm. Weapon. War Hammer. Atlas's arm suddenly swelled. A layer of armed color quickly covered it, and his huge fist directly met Crocodile's head. Blow your dog's head off. Boom. Huge power was released on his head, and Crocodile suddenly turned into yellow sand and disappeared, then reappeared nearby. Crocodile looked at Atlas with some lingering fear. The punch just now almost made him think that he was going to die on the spot. Fortunately, he saved his life by elementalizing in time. Originally, he just wanted to elementalize his head, but he didn't expect it. Truss's power was so great that he had to undergo elemental transformation all over his body. I won't be so lucky next time, Sand Crocodile. Atlas kept talking and trying to psychologically attack Crocodile. Suddenly, Atlas turned to the right, and a huge sand blade broke out from the place where he had just stood. If he had been so late at night, he might have been stabbed like that. It's so insidious. Atlas licked his dry lips, but he didn't pay attention to the sneak attack just now. The attack of that level did not pose much threat to him. "Ah, you are still so naive, Marine brat." "Haha, really?" Atlas sneered, and then the rich armed color quickly covered his whole body, as if he was wearing a black and red armor, and then quickly rushed towards Crocodile. Fully armed. What a stupid thing to do. Crocodile was not surprised, but happy when he saw this scene. He was very disdainful of Atlas's actions. At the same time, he activated the fruit ability in his hands and turned his hands into 4 huge sand blades. Desert Diamond Sword. But Atlas's momentum continued unabated, and he collided directly with Crocodile's sand blade. Clang! Boom! Atlas was in a stalemate with sand blade for a second, and then the huge momentum actually knocked sand blade into a bunch of loose sand. Then he approached Crocodile in the blink of an eye, and before he could react, arms covered in military colors grabbed his neck. "I've got you, little Crocodile." Atlas grinned, and his resolute face looked so hideous and terrifying in the eyes of the astonished Crocodile. Atlas didn't care about Crocodile's fear. He grabbed him by the neck, grabbed the ground with his feet, lowered his center of gravity, and assumed a standard over-the-shoulder throwing posture, using his waist and abdomen to work together. Boom. Let you show off. Boom. Let you deny it. Boom. Let you mock. Boom. Boom. Bang, bang, bang. Crocodile's body was carried like a rag sack by Atlas in his hands. The huge strength allowed him to have close contact with the desert again and again, although his body was able to use elementalization every time to avoid serious injuries. His neck was tightly held in the palm of Atlas's armed color, and he could not break free at all. Chapter 56 Copyable, damn it. Crocodile, who was thrown to the ground over and over again, finally couldn't hold himself any longer and couldn't help but cursed in his heart. Although relying on Logia's elemental characteristics did not cause him to be seriously injured, it was not very harmful and extremely insulting. The feeling of being beaten casually like a rag made Crocodile feel powerless. How could this Marine kid's armed defense be so strong? It actually withstood his Desert Diamond Sword. Suddenly, a layer of pitch-black armed color covered Crocodile's neck. Atlas was also slightly stunned, feeling that the touch in his hand became a little hard. A breeze blew by, and while Atlas was stunned, the crocodile in his hand suddenly disappeared, leaving only some yellow sand slowly flowing out from his fingers. "Hey, Marine brat, are you trying to break up with Shichibukai on behalf of Marine?" Crocodile's figure regrouped, not far from Atlas, and his droopy eyelids opened a little. He seemed to be asking Atlas angrily. In his opinion, the previous harassment of Alabasta was nothing at all. There was no evidence and no reason for Atlas to arrest him. Originally, Crocodile wanted to keep all the Marines, including Atlas, in this desert forever. After all, he was just a Marine captain. Even if the world government knew about it, there was a high probability that he would not trouble him. How could he know that he would encounter it? He had a hard time, so he had to bring out the world government to put pressure. After all, he hadn't gotten Pluton yet, so he couldn't lose his identity as Shichibukai. "I'm so disappointed in you, Sand Crocodile. It seems Whitebeard has knocked all the energy out of you. Even Haki is so weak." Atlas looked at the clown-like crocodile and shook his head and said, although the sand crocodile in front of him is much stronger than it would be more than 10 years later, he has been beaten by Whitebeard so much that he does not believe in his own power and begins to seek the legendary ancient weapon Pluton. Even the weapon color is so weak. It's no wonder that even Haki can't be used later, forcibly helping Oda Madu, and the physical skills are almost useless. "Kid, stop looking down on others. Who do you think you are?" Atlas's words seemed to touch on Crocodile's pain point, and his face was unusually ferocious. However, he did not lose his mind due to anger. He secretly planned an escape route in his mind and quietly activated the fruit ability in his hand. How pitiful! Atlas was indifferent to Crocodile's anger and still exposed his scars mercilessly. His small actions were naturally noticed by Atlas's knowledge. But Atlas didn't stop him. He was going to use his absolute strength to completely defeat this guy. Heavy Shalon. A small sandstorm quickly formed in Crocodile's hands, and was immediately thrown towards Atlas. As the tornado rotated rapidly, the surrounding yellow sand scrambled to cling to it. In just a moment, the sandstorm expanded rapidly, almost covering Atlas's sight. The huge twisting force left huge gorges on the ground. Crocodile on the side seems to want to seize this opportunity to escape. It has to be said that the environment of Alabasta is simply a battlefield prepared for those with Sansanford abilities. The bonus of the environment can be said to have invisibly increased Crocodile's strength. I don't want to play with you anymore. Crocodile. Alice would not just sit back and watch this guy slip away from his eyes. His stature suddenly shrunk, and he forcibly compressed his height of 2.8 meters into 2 meters. The black and red-armed color became darker and darker, and the rich haki almost seemed to escape. Spread out, as if wearing a pair of armor that fits the body, the perfect inverted triangle is clearly displayed. The smooth but not bloated muscles are like God's creation. Mysterious patterns are outlined on the body, and 2 black lines extending from the corners of the eyes to the neck. Life returned paper art's martial body armed form. Crocodile looked at Atlas in this posture with some horror. Even though he was far away, he could feel a huge sense of oppression, and the strong sense of power constantly impacted his visual nerves. Hey, shave! The muscles in Atlas's legs suddenly swelled, and a bottomless pit suddenly appeared on the already soft desert ground. In this form, Atlas's speed was extremely terrifying even if he used the most ordinary shave. With great strength and defense, Atlas passed through the growing sandstorm with an invincible attitude. Before Crocodile could react, fists like raindrops had already fallen on him. With his half-knowledge, he couldn't clearly see Atlas's movements at this time and dodge them with elements. So I can only bear all the attacks from Atlas. As for his weak, armed color, he was defeated by Atlas almost instantly. Few after a while, Atlas looked at the barely human-shaped crocodile lying on the ground and took a long breath. He shook his sore arms, then squatted down and wiped the unconscious crocodile, whose eyes had turned white. Bloodline on fist peak. What a troublesome thing. Atlas reluctantly picked up one of Crocodile's legs from the ground and dragged it straight to the direction where the warship was docked. He didn't bother to exert any force. After all, the battle had just ended. Mr. Captain, this is... Lucilon looked at the fainted crocodile with some hesitation. They could clearly see the battle just now from a distance. The natural disaster-like battle scene really frightened them. In fact, Logia's unique large-scale AoE crocodile, he didn't use it because he also knew that the effect on Atlas was too weak. Our Mr. Shichibukai. In fact, Atlas also understood what Lucilon wanted to say in his doubts. After all, strictly speaking, they had no conclusive evidence for this operation, and Shichibukai was not strictly an agency under Marine. If Crocodile is arrested like this, it will be very difficult for Sengoku, and the world government will not agree. However, leave these things to Sengoku. He, Atlas, is only responsible for completing the task. He also believes that Marine will help him resist the criticism from the world government. A sneeze. Sengoku sneezed inexplicably while sitting in the headquarters office. This made Sengoku a little confused. How could he catch a cold with his physical condition? Could it be that Garp guy was talking about him again? Forget it. Don't think about it anymore. Sengoku continued to read the official document in his hand. Lucilon, are there any sea stone handcuffs on the ship? Come and lock our Mr. Sand Crocodile. After all, he is a terrifying Logia ability user. Atlas ordered Lou Lancy somewhat narrowly. Yes. Jonathan Vice Admiral specially prepared it for us before departure. After Lucilon said that, he ran into the storage room and started rummaging around. Did you prepare it specially? It's really... Atlas suddenly remembered the meaningful look in Jonathan's eyes before and couldn't help but chuckle a little. Chapter 57 5 Elders. I'll go, I'm scared to death. In the sky not far away from where Atlas and Crocodile were fighting, an albatross wearing a top hat and a black suit patted its chest very humanely and seemed to be frightened. Not lightly, he slowly landed on the ground and carefully checked the camera he had just taken. It's okay, it's not damaged. Here, Atlas put sea-stone handcuffs on Crocodile and threw him into a temporary prison on the warship. Then he ordered people to deliver food to him on time to ensure that he would not starve to death. Marine's warship is still designed, it's very reasonable. Everything like the kitchen, training room, bedroom, and prison are all fully equipped. The return flight went smoothly. Within a few days, Atlas and others arrived at the port of G8 Fortress. After handing over Crocodile to the fortress prison, they went straight to Jonathan's office. After all, as the top officer of the base, Atlas had brought back a big guy, so of course he had to report the detailed process of the battle. Dong dong dong. Please come in. Jonathan still had the same image of burgundy hair and thick mustache, wearing a white shirt and sitting casually behind the desk. He was not surprised at all when he saw Atlas coming in. Instead, he changed from his usual deep expression. He looked at Atlas with a smile. Report to Vice Admiral Jonathan. The mission was successfully completed. The Alabasta incident was committed by the current Shichibukai crocodile, and he has been arrested. Atlas also noticed Jonathan's expression, but didn't care. He just thought he was happy that he completed the task quickly. Already know now. Look at this. Jonathan picked up a newspaper on the table and handed it to Atlas, who looked confused. Atlas took the newspaper, and what caught his eye was the headline in capital letters, "Shocked. Marine actually did this to Shichibukai crocodile. World government may abolish Shichibukai." Most of the content of the newspaper is the detailed process of the battle between Atlas and Crocodile and analyzes the world situation based on this battle, such as how the world government broke the Shichibukai covenant, and the balance of the world is about to be broken. In the middle, Crocodile's inhuman form and Atlas' majestic appearance are also attached. I wonder if Crocodile will hunt this reporter to death if he comes out of prison. Atlas looked at the person signing this article again. It was a reporter named Morgans. Morgans? He seems to be the king of news in the underground world. No wonder he saw a huge bird when he was fighting Crocodile. I heard that this guy is a person with bird fruit ability. At the time, he didn't care. After all, they were just watching the battle from the sidelines, so they were not breaking the law. He didn't expect Morgans to be so bold and dare to talk about world government. So you already knew about Jonathan Vice Admiral. Atlas looked at Jonathan, who looked like he wanted to watch the fun, and said helplessly, I know, but Sengoku Admiral has a headache. Jonathan gloated. He was also half a participant in this incident. Of course, he knew that there was no accurate evidence to prove Crocodile's crime. But Marine, they've all been arrested. How can there be any reason to let them go? Red line. Holy Land Mariewa. Between powers. Damn it. Who gave Marine the authority to arrest Shichibukai? This is a provocation to the world government. A bald old man wearing a white monk's robe, wearing glasses, and holding a long knife in his arms roared with an angry look on his face. What made the old man angry was not the capture of Crocodile itself, but the role Marine played in it, which had the implicit intention of confronting the world government. The five of them had always agreed to control and restrict Marine. Hey, St. Nazaroff, calm down. Now is not the time to hold Marine accountable. St. La Cruz, a bald old man in a black suit with a birthmark on his face, objected. Our current issue is to discuss the disposal of Crocodile and the survival of the Shichibukai system. Another blonde five elders in a red suit agreed. Impossible. The Shichibukai system cannot be abolished now. You should know very well. St. Nazarov, who was wearing a robe, was a little excited. He stood up from his chair and looked around at the expressions of others and said slowly, the Shichibukai system is not only to check and balance the pirates, but also to prevent Marine from getting too strong. Okay, Saint Nazarov, Saint La Cruz, Saint Lablique. The Shichibukai system cannot be abolished, so don't mention this matter again. Seeing the smell of gunpowder, Saint Jimenez hurriedly came out to smooth things over. In fact, all five of them knew in their hearts that Shichibukai could not be abolished unless Marine was completely controlled by them, and a handover of the martial position must be designated by them. But obviously, that's not possible at the moment. Okay, now how to discuss the disposal of Crocodile. Dexter, who was wearing a black suit, white curly hair, a scar on the left side of his face, and a black flat hat, reached a consensus on the topic of the Shichibukai system. It's okay. Another topic was slowly brought up. In fact, they don't care about Crocodile's life or death. What they care about is Marine's attitude, which will help judge their degree of control over Marine. Call Sengoku and ask him to give us an explanation. It's still Saint Nazarov, who seems to have a bad temper. Seconded. Soon La Cruz dialed Sengoku's number, and the phone bug soon transformed into an image with frog eyes and a braided beard on his chin. Moses, this is Sengoku. It's me, La Cruz Saint, and we want to ask you what Marine plans to do with Crocodile. Saint La Cruz, regarding Crocodile, our Marine opinion is to lock the Impel down and kick out the Shichibukai. Sengoku had obviously been prepared for it long ago. Originally, the whole Marine was very dissatisfied with the Shichibukai system, and it was just a good opportunity to get the Shichibukai out. Attrition. As for abolishing the Shichibukai system, Marine also knows that this is impossible. What did you say? Sengoku. This time you, Marine, overstepped your authority. Saint Nazarov on the side couldn't help but said in a deep voice to the phone bug, Saint Nazarov, this is Marine's will. Justice cannot be blasphemed. Sengoku's voice was more determined this time, revealing an unquestionable meaning. Marine is just. Saint Nazarov wanted to say something else, but was stopped by Saint La Cruz. Okay, just do as you say. Snap. The caller hung up. Chapter 58 Reactions from All Parties. See Circle Calendar 1505. Grand Line, New World, Unknown Sea. A large three-masted ship with a whale-shaped bow sailed slowly on the rough sea. Huge waves hit the ship's hull from time to time, but they failed to deviate from its course at all, just like his master. Whitebeard Edward Newgate, the strongest man in the world, still stands firm in the wave of a new era. Aboard Moby DK, a young man, 28 years old, with a blonde punk hair, a dagger at his waist, and an open shirt revealing a tattoo unique to the Whitebeard pirates climbed up from the deck. On the messy deck were traces of last night's banquet, remaining warmth. The young man's drooped eyelids seemed to have not woken up, and he had a sleepy look on his face. He was Marco, the captain of the Whitebeard pirate ship's first division and the ship's doctor. Marco followed Whitebeard into the sea when he was very young. Like Whitebeard, he didn't have much ambition. He just wanted to live quietly on the sea with his family on the ship. Whitebeard was his real father to him. No difference. Is there a new newspaper today? Marco raised his hand to greet the newsbird in the sky, took out a few crumpled banknotes from his body, and finally took the newspaper under the contempt of the newsbird. Really, all the money was used to hold a banquet for Dad. It's not that Marco is too poor, but that the Moby DK often holds banquets, and his father's money is secretly sent back to his hometown. All their money is used to buy wine. After all, Marco is also famous in the New World. What a big pirate. Shichibukai, Marine Nova, Kano's Atlas. Marco couldn't help curling his lips when he saw the bold title in the newspaper. He continued to read and frowned. Naturally, he didn't take Crocodile seriously. The so-called Shichibukai was just a joke to him. What attracted his attention was the rising star of Marine, who was so powerful at such a young age. Marine's power has become more and more powerful in recent years. Captain Marco, what are you looking at? You're so absorbed. Suddenly, a man with dark skin and fluffy black hair poked his head out from beside Marco and asked curiously. Looking closely, this man looks quite funny. His clothes are open, revealing thick body hair, and even a few teeth are missing. A green turban is tied to his forehead, and his neck and wrists are empty without any accessories. There's a claw-shaped iron weapon on the left waist, and there is a simple and honest smile on his face, but there is bottomless ambition buried in his eyes. It's Teach. No, it's a Marine who defeated that sand crocodile guy. Marco saw that Teach seemed interested, so he handed the newspaper to his hand. Blackbeard was stunned when he heard this. He took the newspaper and glanced at it casually, pretending not to care, and then laughed. What an awesome Marine brat, but I have a father to protect me. I just want to eat Sakura peach pie every day on the ship. That's it. Thief, really? Seeing Blackbeard's lack of ambition, Marco shook his head helplessly. then took the newspaper and ran to Whitebeard's bedroom. The moment Marco turned around, no one saw Blackbeard's face suddenly darken, and there was an emotion called jealousy in his eyes. Being famous in the sea, what a blessing. Just wait. Wait. What are you waiting for? Teach. Sachi, who had been sleeping not far away, suddenly woke up and asked a little confused. No. I'm waiting for you to wake up and make me Sakura peach pie. Blackbeard's face suddenly had that honest smile again. This acting skill won't even win an Oscar. Pity you. I'll make it for you later, Thatch said dotingly to Blackbeard. Because Blackbeard likes to eat Sakura peach pie, the two of them often interact with each other, so their relationship is naturally better than that of other crew members. Dad, look, that crocodile guy was defeated by a young Marine. On the other side, Marco ran to the door of Whitebeard's room and yelled. Whitebeard also heard the sound and walked out of the bedroom, and a huge shadow instantly enveloped Marco. Oh, is that the kid playing in the sand? Gula-la-la-la. At this time, Whitebeard is not as old as he will be more than 10 years later. His bright golden hair hangs down naturally, and Whitebeard's iconic crescent moon shakes up and down with laughter. That's right. It's the crocodile who tried to challenge Dad before. I heard that he was invited by the world government to be a Shichibukai. Unexpectedly, he was defeated by a young Marine. Marine is really getting stronger and stronger. Marco suddenly became worried as he spoke. Gula la la la. He's just a kid. Lousy is Whitebeard. Whitebeard laughed and comforted Marco. Marco seemed to have taken a reassurance, and a smile appeared on his face again. Dad is the strongest man in the world. Wanakuni, Island of Ghosts. A tall and burly figure with a pair of horns was sitting on a chair. He was holding a wine gourd with the word printed on it in his left hand and pouring wine into his mouth. He was looking at the newspaper he had just received with his right hand. His whole face was hidden in the darkness. Among them, the specific expression cannot be seen clearly. Marine's brat? It's a pity that he's not a Zoan user. New World, Totolancy area, Cake Island. A middle-aged woman with a big belly, who didn't know whether it was because of obesity or pregnancy, and wearing a pink suspender skirt, sat in the hall. With her huge palms, she desperately stuffed the food in front of her in her mouth, occasionally falling out of her mouth. The saliva that fell to the ground sizzled, and the strong corrosiveness instantly caused holes to appear on the ground. Mom, this is today's newspaper. Parasparrow next to him held a newspaper and reported to Big Mom, but it didn't elicit any response, and Big Mom was still focused on destroying the food in front of them. Mom, there was a young Marine star who defeated that sand crocodile. Parasparrow was already used to this and continued to narrate the contents of the newspaper to Big Mom. Marine? Where's that guy Garp? Suddenly, Charlotte Linlin, who was fighting with food, suddenly looked at Parasparrow. Her eyes, painted with crude purple eyeshadow, were as big as bells, and Parasparrow was so frightened that he stepped back. Sabaody Archipelago, Shaki's Rip-Off Bar. An old man with long curly white hair, a thick beard on his chin, and round glasses was sipping the wine in his glass while reading the newspaper on the table. His expression was a bit inexplicable, and a smile unconsciously appeared on the corner of his mouth. Is this the wave of a new era? Roger, is this the era you want? Is this the new star of Marine? Shanks is in trouble. Chapter 59, The End Grand Line, G8 Fortress Training Room. The training room, surrounded by iron sheets, was empty. There were only some special training equipment placed inside, and a young man who used his flesh and blood body to beat the huge steel crazily, using his fists, elbows, knees, and back to do everything he could. It's Atlas. The steel boulder is filled with irregular cracks and fist marks, and Madara's rippling bloodline tells the story of Atlas's efforts. Atlas is now 2.8 meters tall. Different from the handsomeness in his youth, he is now 19 years old and has a resolute face, with facial features and lines as clear as a chisel. His long life at sea has made his skin no longer as fair as it was when he was a boy, but instead has a bronze color. His eyes are sharp, and his slightly raised eyebrows give people a cold feeling. He does not wear a Marine military cap on his head, but with fresh and neat short hair, the whole person has a sunny and upward appeal. Matching his appearance, the muscles on his body are not very bloated. Instead, he presents an extremely well-proportioned beauty of strength. His thick deltoid muscles are like armor, and his broad back muscles make his waist somewhat slender. If viewed from the back, you will find that it actually presents a perfect inverted triangle. The muscles of the upper and lower body are very coordinated. The body with extremely low body fat seems to be able to see muscle fibers like steel bars. Every muscle is showing powerful, explosive power. Boom! Suddenly, the steel that had been tortured by Atlas finally cracked on the spot. And Atlas seemed to have caught something, but he could barely feel it. In fact, it is easy to fly out and break this piece of steel with Atlas's power, but what is difficult is to let it break in place. Atlas has been trying this kind of training. He feels that this can make his fist stronger. It has penetrating power, but it is still not strong enough. Captain Atlas, Vice Admiral Jonathan has something to do with you. At this moment, a Marine soldier suddenly walked into the training room to convey Jonathan's order to Atlas. This Marine looked at the splintered steel on the ground and couldn't help but show admiration. Atlas was now a legendary Marine from G8 Fortress. In just 3 months, he first annihilated the Ekram pirates who returned from the New World, then fought against a big pirate like Shichibukai Crocodile, and then arrested him, and then directly guarded the Grand Line through G on this route of Fortress 8. Almost no new pirates can pass through it smoothly, and it has become a death route for many pirates. Okay, I'll be there later. Atlas nodded slightly. He naturally saw the Marine's admiration that was almost overflowing, but he had long been accustomed to it. In the past 3 months, he almost apart from practicing, he was crazy about taking on tasks. Every day, he was either on a mission or on the way to take on a mission. No matter whether the old pirates or some new pirates who passed by here were almost killed by his hands. Even the captain of a supernova, a pirate with over 100 million people, fell into his hands. As a result, there are very few pirates now. This route enters the Grand Line, and Atlas is called Captain Devil by the pirates who fear him. Jonathan's office. Atlas opened the office door directly. In the past 3 months, he had been looking for Jonathan to take over tasks. The two of them were so familiar that Atlas didn't even knock on the door politely. And Jonathan has always been good-tempered and doesn't care about these little things. Vice Admiral Jonathan, what do you want from me? Do you have a new mission? When Atlas entered the door, he saw Jonathan tinkering with his fishing rod again and asked somewhat speechlessly, Atlas, you are here. Your trial is over. In 2 days, the headquarters ships will come to the G8 Fortress. You should go back to the headquarters together then. Jonathan explained. Headquarters warship? Pick me up. Atlas was confused. He must not have reached the level of a special delivery from the headquarters. Could it be that the conscience of the old man, Sengoku, discovered it? Ha. Don't get me wrong, I didn't come here specifically to pick you up. Looking at Atlas' confused expression, Jonathan couldn't help but tease. It's that crocodile guy. The headquarters decided to imprison him until impelled down. We haven't been able to spare the manpower to come here for the handover. Recently, a rear admiral happened to be staying at the headquarters, so we were specially sent to pick up Crocodile. Atlas looked helpless. I bet he was just a casualty, but he was still a little surprised that Crocodile was still staying in G8 Fortress to serve his life in prison. After all, he had been busy catching pirates during this period, so he was not at all, don't have time to pay attention to Crocodile's situation. In fact, Atlas also understands the headquarters. After all, it is impossible for a pirate of Crocodile's level to just send someone to guard him. The one who is too weak is really not qualified. So Atlas is very concerned about the upcoming Rear Admiral. Still a little curious. I wonder who the Rear Admiral is? Jonathan Vice Admiral. Atlas had never been a person who liked to hide things, so he did not hide his curiosity at all and directly asked Jonathan. Let me give you a try. Ha. For Jonathan, Atlas's senses are still very good. But the only thing that makes him criticized is that Jonathan always likes to tell stories and play riddles, which always makes Atlas a little confused. Hey, forget it. We'll see it in a few days anyway. Atlas curled his lips with disdain. It didn't matter which Rear Admiral came over. Anyway, There was a boat, so there was no need to wander around alone. Isn't the sea delicious? Is there anything else? If nothing happens, I'll leave first. Atlas gestured to walk out the door. Hey, don't leave yet. Jonathan quickly stopped when he saw this. Well, a friend of mine asked me to ask which base you want to go to after graduation. Well, I really haven't thought about it yet. It all depends on how Sengoku Admiral arranges it. This is definitely not Atlas's perfunctory words. He really hasn't thought about which base to go to. Of course, his personal preference is to go New World's base. The Paradise side is still too weak for him. Now, he can only become stronger by constantly fighting against strong men. He has only lit up the 12 talismans now. The Horse Talisman, the Ox Talisman, and the Rabbit Talisman. In fact, with his current physique, he can still light up the talisman again. But he, knowing that it is better to bite off more than you can chew, he wanted to wait until he had truly digested the rabbit charm before lighting the next one. Moreover, with frequent use during this period, Atlas felt that he was not far away from completely digesting the rabbit talisman. Now, with the help of these 3 talismans, his physical growth has been infinitely improved. Chapter 60 here, he comes. The man who is also called Kizuru the Time soon came to 3 days later. 8 Fortress Port. The huge marine warship was docked at the port, and marine soldiers coming and going were constantly maintaining the warship. In front of the port, a man wearing a cloak of justice was looking at Atlas opposite with a smile. Next to Atlas is Crocodile, who has been reduced to a prisoner but still looks like he needs to be beaten. It has to be said that people in the pirate world have a pervert physique. Crocodile was beaten like that by Atlas, and he was able to do it in such a short time. He recovered within a short period of time, even giving Atlas the illusion that he had never beaten this guy at all. Hey, Brother Art, here's a plan. Rear Admiral from our headquarters. Atlas looked at the Mr. Rear Admiral in front of him expressionlessly. His eyes were so small that they were almost narrowed into a slit, giving him a sense of pride. His hexagonal face, with striking ears, was compact. His facial features were prominently displayed on his face, and there was a cigarette dangling from his wide, open mouth. He is not wearing a neat suit like other Marine generals, but a brown jacket that looks like a Mandarin jacket and casual pants of the same color. His slightly stooped figure makes it impossible to determine his true age. The whole person has only one image of Atlas, vulgar and ugly. If Porisolino exudes obscenity from the inside out, then Rear Admiral can make people feel similar purely based on his appearance. He is worthy of being called a man comparable to Kizaru Vice Admiral in Naval Headquarters. Atlas sighed secretly in his heart. Hello, Jiaji Rear Admiral, Kano's Atlas. I have admired your name for a long time. Atlas also smiled and nodded, and did not hesitate to praise him. As for whether this reputation is good or bad, it is a matter of opinion. Of course, according to Atlas's limited understanding of Jiaji, he is still the kind of general who cares more about the safety of the people. He has a kind heart that is inconsistent with his appearance. No, Brother Atlas, you are the famous one. I have long wanted to meet you, the rising star of Marine. Cake is obviously a person with a high emotional intelligence. Unlike Akainu, who is so rigid, Cake has always been criticized for being naughty and doesn't care about his face. The most famous thing is that while this guy is crazy about pursuing Guion, he actually lets him go to the flower boat. This Nima Guion only agreed to him because he was mentally ill. Okay, no more polite words. Let's put Crocodile on the warship first. After a while of business exchanges, Jiaji straightened his face and suggested that Crocodile be imprisoned on a warship first. Hey, it should have been like this a long time ago. What are you two talking about there? What hypocritical marine brats? Crocodile, who had been impatient for a long time, couldn't help but taunted. Both Jiaki and Atlas ignored Crocodile's cries and just personally sent him to the temporary prison on the warship. Naval Headquarters, Marine Ford, Sengoku offices. Sengoku, who has fluffy black hair, frog glasses, and a thick beard braided, is sitting in an office chair. A white goat beside the wide desk is silently chewing on discarded documents. Today, Sengoku, he did not lie down in front of the case to deal with the piled documents as usual. but looked at the man opposite him with a serious face. The man's entire face was buried in the swirling smoke, but his iron-blooded and resolute face could be vaguely recognized. An unknown tattoo was exposed on his thick neck. He was wearing an ordinary marine cap and a dark red suit. A dark red rose is pinned to the chest, giving people an enchanting sense of beauty. Sakazuki, how is the situation in New World now? Sengoku looked at Akainu, who had just returned from the New World campaign to train at the headquarters, and asked. Naval Headquarters now has the strongest control over the first half of the Grand Line, but it is difficult for the Marine in the New World to make further arrangements. There are too many strong people in the New World. The situation was too chaotic for Marine to intervene. As before, the evil pirates have been fighting each other, but the three strongest forces are the Whitebeard pirates, the Big Mom pirates, and the Beast pirates, as well as the Yermak Sea, who have formed an alliance. The pirates, the Klaus pirates, the Blood Scythe pirates, and the Francis pirates. The four of them formed an alliance. Sengoku was a little surprised. Hey, the nature of pirates is to kill each other. Not to mention that no matter how big the New World is, it cannot accommodate so many pirate overlords, and none of the pirate groups of Whitebeard, Big Mom, and 100 Beasts can be defeated by other pirate groups alone. To compete, forming a temporary alliance is their inevitable choice. Akainu paused, narrowed his eyes, and continued. But sooner or later, they will continue to fight. It is impossible for these four pirate groups to form an alliance forever and live in a corner of the New World. Greed is always in people's hearts, the biggest enemy, and these pirates are even more so. It has to be said that apart from Akainu's more radical ideas, his strategic vision is undoubtedly very penultimate, and he can intuitively analyze the situation in New World clearly. Well, that's right, and what we Marines have to do is to draw chestnuts from the fire. If any of the three pirate groups, Whitebeard, Big Mom, and Beasts, is eliminated, Marines will have to bear huge risks and losses. But when the New World starts to become chaotic, if so, Marine can sit firmly on the die. Sengoku nodded in agreement. Now that most of Marine's combat forces have been dispatched to the New World, when a war breaks out between these big pirate groups, we at Marine can not only weaken the three big pirate groups, but also further encroach on the New World and strengthen our control over the New World. You have to control the intensity. Now Marine's main combat forces, such as Garp, Akainu, and Gion, have been placed in the New World. As for Kizaru and Akiji, one went to the holy land of Mariawa to check in and go to work, and the other rode a bicycle around the sea. For these two, personally, Sengoku also has a headache. It's okay for poor Salino. After all, he is...
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.